Chapter 1253. Ha! Gohan is getting more and more ostentatious. Misaka Mikoto's face was filled with joy when she saw the magnificent decorations in the hall as she walked out of the gate of the void. She didn't expect that the young man she got to know by chance would become the famous Sea Emperor. When Misaka Mikoto received Gohan's invitation to the Freedom City a few days ago, she did not believe it at all. She thought someone was messing with her. It was only when the mayor of the Freedom City personally confirmed the matter with Misaka Mikoto that she believed that the human who saved her back then had become the Sea King. Miss Mikoto. During the Battle of Yuzhong City a month ago, Misaka Mikoto had come to the rescue. Hence, Sword Immortal Ling Su and Misaka Mikoto knew each other. When Misaka Mikoto appeared, she took the initiative to greet him. The two of them greeted each other and started chatting. "What's wrong? Old man Ling Su, aren't you going to welcome me?" In the end, Sword Immortal Ling Su's actions caused the next person who appeared to be a little displeased. This immortal realm war god, Yang Jian, who was dressed in silver armor and had a crown on his head, walked out from the spatial gate with his head held high. The moment Yang Jian appeared, all the immortal sword-rank swordsmen present tensed up. The sword ladies next to them gripped the hilts of their swords at the same time and looked at the celestial world war god cautiously. "What's going on? We're all here to congratulate you. Why are you all so nervous?" Yang Jian laughed dryly. His arrogance was greatly suppressed. There were a total of 8 immortal sword-rank swordsmen here. If any two of them attacked together, Yang Jian would not be able to leave this place alive. This was extremely normal. Misaka Mikoto was known as a free person. However, Yang Jian was different. He was Yuan Ko, whose hands were stained with the blood of humans. He was also a general of the Heavenly Court. How could the surrounding immortal sword-rank swordsmen be at ease with Yang Jian? "Don't worry, comrades. Master Yang Jian has reached an agreement with Yuzhong City to protect Yuzhong City selflessly for 3 years. Hence, Master Yang Jian can now be considered a friend of Yuzhong City. He's half a free man. Everyone, relax for now. Master Yang Jian would never do anything that would betray his friends." Sword Immortal Ling Su hurriedly explained. The details of the battle in Yuzhong City a month ago had already spread to all the sword-bearers. These immortal sword-bearers were also very clear about it. They also knew about the bet between Yang Jian and Gu Xian Yuan. Thus, after Sword Immortal Ling Su's explanation, the tense atmosphere eased a little. Yang Jian didn't dare to be arrogant anymore. After a few dry laughs, he sat in his seat. "Oh my God! Is Gohan going to get rid of me after I've outlived my usefulness?" Suddenly, 3 terrified voices came from the hall. The 3 Yuenko, who looked human but not human, saw that they were surrounded by 8 immortal sword-tier sword-bearers, and instantly screamed in fright, huddling together nervously. The last ones to appear were naturally the 3 Egyptian gods who hadn't appeared for a long time. Ever since Gohan entered the Shanhai Pass, these 3 comrades had been living a carefree life. Apart from strictly abiding by their agreement with Gohan, which was to promise not to harm any human unless their lives were in danger, their lives could be said to be quite comfortable. Moreover, after Gohan came out of the Shanhai Pass, due to various reasons, he didn't choose to summon the 3 Egyptian gods to his side. He still allowed them to live happily. This made the 3 Egyptian gods, who had suffered for hundreds of years, extremely happy. Without Gohan's restraint, their lives were unimaginably happy. After all, they were all U-stage Yuan Ko, and they were absolute powerhouses among the Yuan Ko. Moreover, they were Egyptian gods who had mastered enslavement technique. Very quickly, they enslaved a large number of low-level Yuan Ko. They even found the ruins of the palaces they had built 800 years ago. They planned to rebuild their temples that had been damaged for 800 years. Thus, they captured Yuan Ko everywhere and enslaved them to work for them. They regained the feeling of being a god who was above tens of thousands of people. Unfortunately, this feeling of being a god didn't last long. The situation they were most unwilling to see finally happened. Gohan, who hadn't given any orders for more than 3 years, suddenly gave them an order. He gave them a void coordinate and asked them to directly return to Gohan's side through the void. In this regard, the 3 Egyptian gods were very hesitant. They had lived comfortably for 3 years. Now they were asked to return to Gohan's side and become Gohan's thugs. Even if they were beaten to death, they wouldn't be willing to do so. The 3 Egyptian gods decided to play dumb and pretend that they hadn't heard Gohan's order. Or, they might as well cut off their relationship with Gohan and live their own happy lives. However, such thoughts were just thoughts. The 3 Egyptian gods clearly knew that as long as their divinity was controlled by Gohan, they were not real gods. Helplessly, they could only obediently come through the void gate according to the agreed time. In the end, seeing the scene in front of them and seeing the 8 immortal sword wielders, the 3 Egyptian gods were almost scared to death. They naturally thought that Gohan was very dissatisfied with their disobedience, so he secretly set up a plan to use the power of humans to kill them. They were so scared that they prepared to open the void gate again and escape from this terrifying place. You 3 idiots, find a place to stand. Don't move without my order. Don't worry, no one will hurt you. A thunderous voice sounded in the ears of the 3 Egyptian gods and all the guests present. In an instant, the entire venue was in an uproar. These guests didn't expect Gohan to call the 3 Egyptian gods idiots. Weren't the 3 Egyptian gods invited by Gohan? How could they call their guests idiots? Thinking about it carefully, Gohan's tone wasn't the tone he used to treat guests. Instead, it was like he was treating a servant. It was like he was scolding his own servant. He punished the 3 U-level Yuan-ko to stand, and he didn't even give them a seat. However, what happened next shocked all the guests even more. The 3 U-level Yuan-ko of Egypt actually acted like Gohan's servants. They had obedient expressions on their faces as they obediently walked to the side and stood there like servants. What's going on? Lord Sea King actually has the ability to order 3 U-level Yuan-ko to listen to him. The other guests instantly started discussing, and their words were filled with admiration for Gohan. The contempt in their hearts because of Gohan's rank instantly dissipated. Hey, isn't this the Badet brothers? It seems like I haven't seen you for 800 years. The 3 Egyptian gods were actually old acquaintances of Yang Jian. He warmly greeted the 3 unlucky guys. Brothers, how did you end up like this? Ah, it's a long story. What else could the 3 Egyptian gods say? They could only say, it's a long story. My 3 friends are you Isis, Batet, and Anubis who founded Yuzhong City with Lord Jitianjendi? On the other side, Sword Immortal Ling Su recalled the founding history of Yuzhong City. He immediately walked up to the 3 Egyptian gods and asked curiously. That's right. It's us 3 unlucky guys. Batet rolled his eyes at Sword Immortal Ling Su. If it wasn't for that woman Jitian screwing us over, we wouldn't have been humiliated like this today. Being ordered around by a famed sword-rank sword wielder, wait, what woman? Sword Immortal Ling Su was stunned. You idiot, you must have lost your mind from anger. What nonsense are you spouting? Isis slapped Bastet's head and hurriedly tried to salvage the situation. He's lost his mind from anger. Of course Jitianjendi is a man. How could he be a woman? Oh! Sword Immortal Ling Su nodded. He thought for a moment and said, I shouldn't have said so much, but since the 3 of you were once Lord Jitian's subordinates and contributed greatly to the founding of Yuzhong City, I'll say one more thing. Then let me say one more thing. Right now, Sea Emperor is no longer a famous sword-level swordsman. Right now, His Majesty is a spiritual sword-level swordsman. Oh, with Gohan's abilities, it's not a big deal for him to rise to spirit sword rank. Wait, what did you say? What Sea Emperor? The 3 Egyptian gods were all dumbfounded, and Sword Immortal Ling Su was also dumbfounded. These 3 guys had come here without even knowing what was going on. With no other choice, Sword Immortal Ling Su could only play the role of a commentator and tell them about Gohan's recent events. The 3 Egyptian gods were dumbfounded. They had been thinking of ways to repair their temples and were indifferent to the humans and Yuan Ko. They had never thought that Gohan was already so awesome that he had become the Sea Emperor. Especially when the 3 Egyptian gods heard that Gohan had cooperated with an Emperor Sword rank sword wielder to kill 3 Flood rank Yuan Ko, they were so scared that their necks shrank. "Welcome, Long Shi Jiandi!" Prime Minister Turtle screamed. After the 3 Egyptian gods, it was finally Long Shi Jiandi's turn to appear. As Prime Minister Turtle's voice fell, another void gate opened in the middle of the venue, and Long Shi Jiandi, dressed in a crimson dragon robe, walked out of the void gate. In addition to Long Shi Jiandi himself, there were 36 women dressed in extremely complicated court dresses behind him. These women were holding a set of special ostentation for an emperor, such as liquor, books, flags, banners, and so on. It could be said that they were extremely mighty, fully demonstrating the majesty of an emperor. What does His Majesty Long Shi mean? Who brings a whole set of liquor books to participate in someone else's coronation ceremony. When the audience saw the frightening items on the Dragon Lion Sword Emperor's back, they couldn't help but start discussing among themselves. At the same time, countless speculations about the discord between Long Shi Jiandi and Gohan began to circulate among the crowd. "Brother Gohan, you have just ascended the throne, and I have nothing to congratulate you with, so I will give you a whole set of liquor books that I have just made this year." Long Shi Jiandi laughed as soon as he appeared. It turned out that this set of things was a gift for Gohan. "Thank you for your kindness, Your Majesty Long Shi. I will accept these gifts." Gohan's voice came from behind, and a few minutes later, Gohan, dressed in ordinary clothes, appeared in the venue. The protagonist of today's coronation ceremony had finally appeared. Chapter 1254. Along with Gohan, there were also hundreds of gorgeously dressed dragon ladies. They took over the whole set of chariot books from the hands of the ladies brought by Long Shi Jiandi. Gohan and Long Shi Jiandi stood together and chatted with a smile. No one could hear what they were talking about. It seemed that the guests and the host were having a great time. Finally, Long Shi Jiandi sat on the dragon throne specially prepared for him. Gohan still gave Long Shi Jiandi face. The dragon throne given to Long Shi Jiandi was not as honorable as Gohan's dragon throne, but the size and configuration were the same as Gohan's dragon throne. Long Shi Jiandi sitting on such a dragon throne could be regarded as receiving great respect from Gohan. The Sea Emperor's enthronement ceremony begins. With the arrival of the last guest, Long Shi Jiandi, Prime Minister Turtle finally shouted the words that everyone had been waiting for a long time. "Quick! Quick!" Hearing that the Sea Emperor's enthronement ceremony was about to begin, the cameraman who occupied the best angle under the stage entered a state of full concentration, ready to record this exciting moment perfectly. The audience in front of the TV was holding their breath, ready to witness the birth of the first Sea Emperor. "Brother Gohan, why don't you call your good brother when you are so proud of your life?" A heroic voice sounded in the hall, and immediately a void door appeared in the middle of the hall, right in front of Gohan. "Your Majesty, be careful!" The face of Prime Minister Turtle, who had always been expressionless, instantly showed a panicked expression. From this, it could be seen that the void door that suddenly opened was not within Prime Minister Turtle's expectation. It was an uninvited void door. What a familiar voice! Hearing the voice coming from the void door, such a thought popped up in the minds of all the people present. Some of the guests, who were responsive and had a strong memory, quickly remembered who this voice belonged to. "Friends in the audience! Friends in the audience! It's Qin Shi Huang, our ancestor. His Majesty Qin Shi Huang is here," the host said excitedly. Just as everyone had guessed, Qin Shi Huang Yingjing, clad in a black dragon robe, soon walked out of the void gate and appeared in front of everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, His Majesty Long Shi Jiandi, His Majesty Qin Shi Huang, and His Majesty Si Emperor, I never thought that these three supreme emperors would actually appear here at the same time. This is truly an exciting moment. This is truly the three emperors' assembly. The host shouted excitedly. It had been many years since the three emperors had gathered in one place. I say, Brother Gohan, you're too unkind. You didn't even invite me for such a joyous occasion like ascending to the throne. Have you forgotten our friendship in the Shanhai Pass? Yingzheng, the first emperor of Qin, gave a loud laugh, spreading his arms and trying to embrace Gohan. I wouldn't dare. With a nimble turn, Gohan dodged Yingzheng's embrace, causing Yingzheng's embrace to miss its target. Yingzheng's complexion immediately changed, but soon returned to normal. With a faint smile, he said, It seems that we brothers have not seen each other for 2 or 3 years, and have become a little estranged. Please sit down. Gohan's face showed neither joy nor anger. He just lightly pointed to an empty seat not far away and said, Please sit down. This is not appropriate. Yingzheng glanced at the seat pointed out by Gohan, and his face showed a bit of anger. Because Gohan actually let him sit in the same position as an immortal sword-grade sword-bearer, unlike Long Shi Jiandi, who specially prepared a more honorable position for him. What's not appropriate? Gohan said lightly. I didn't prepare a seat for an uninvited person. As soon as Gohan's voice fell, the whole venue fell into an awkward situation. All the guests present could feel that Yingzheng, the first emperor of Qin, who had been in the limelight recently, and Gohan did not seem to get along very well, or it could be said that the two almost directly fought in this venue. Strange, didn't I hear that Qin Shi Huang and Ocean Emperor were good friends in Shanhai Pass? They and Miss Ling supported each other, and finally defeated all the great wizards, achieving an unprecedented victory for mankind. Why do they not look like friends now, but like two enemies? A guest present whispered to the person next to him. Shh. How would we know about the affairs between these big shots? Just relax and watch the show. I thought that attending this ascension ceremony was just a formality, but now it seems that there will be a good show to watch tomorrow. Another guest said with narrowed eyes. Brother Gohan, what you said is wrong. How can you say that there are no good seats? I see that there is a good empty seat here. How about letting your brother sit here? Yingzheng pointed to the dragon chair behind Gohan and said. There were only 2 dragon chairs in the entire venue. One dragon chair was currently sitting on Long Shi Jiandi's buttocks, and the remaining dragon chair was naturally the dragon chair that Gohan had prepared for himself. Now, Yingzheng pointed to Gohan's own dragon chair and said that he wanted to sit and watch. Even a fool could see the meaning behind this. No matter if it was on the stage or off the stage, when Yingzheng said that, the entire place fell into a complete silence. The guests did not even dare to breathe too loudly, and all of them had their eyes fixed on Yingzheng and Gohan, who stood right in the center of the venue. They never thought that Yingzheng did not come to congratulate Gohan this time. On the contrary, Yingzheng coveted Gohan's position as the Emperor of the Sea, and planned to snatch food from the dragon's mouth. Be it the ordinary guests, the immortal sword-bearers present, or the guests of Yuan Ko, all of them stared at Gohan, wanting to see how Gohan planned to respond to Yingzheng's provocation. Misaka Mikoto, Li Bai, the 3 unlucky Egyptian gods, and sword immortal Ling Su clenched their hands into fists or placed them on the hilt of their swords, looking ready to attack at any time. Other than them, the rest of the immortal sword-bearers and Long Shi Jiandi remained motionless. The number of humans who were willing to help Gohan at any time was actually less than that of Yuan Ko. This was a very ironic thing. At this moment, everyone's gazes were focused on Gohan. If Gohan said anything wrong, it was very likely that this coronation ceremony would turn into an intense battlefield. Sure. Under everyone's gaze, Gohan's expression did not change. He slightly moved his body to one side, revealing the Emperor of the Sea's dragon chair behind him. If you want to sit, then sit. What? Gohan actually gave up his dragon chair. Gohan's reaction surprised all the guests. They thought that Gohan might politely refuse, or maybe he would just laugh it off, or maybe he would bring out another dragon chair for Ying. They never thought that on this occasion, Gohan would actually give up the dragon chair so easily. This time, the focus of all eyes had shifted to Ying. People began to eagerly want to know if this ancestor of mankind from thousands of years ago had the guts to sit on the throne. Ying hesitated for a moment, then took a step forward. This step also shocked all the guests present. Could it be that Ying was really planning to completely strip Gohan of his dignity and sit on Gohan's throne just like that? At this moment, people suddenly felt that a storm of blood was about to unfold in the future. It's just a joke. You and I are brothers. How can I disturb your ascension ceremony? Ying's face twitched a few times, then he bumped Gohan's shoulder with his own, with an expression that said, "I'm just joking with you." He then took a few steps back, turned around, and directly opened the void gate. With a taut face, he said, "Never mind, I don't have time to attend your ascension ceremony anyway. I'll just show my face and leave. You don't have to send me off." The development of the situation could be said to have made everyone feel the lack of intelligence. Even a fool could see that Ying's excuse of not having time and leaving after showing his face was extremely laughable. Even if he used the Void Gate, it would take 2 to 3 hours to travel from Yanjing City to the Ocean Emperor Palace. A round trip would take 5 to 6 hours. Since he had already spent 5 to 6 hours, why would he care about spending 1 or 2 more hours to attend the entire ascension ceremony? Yet, Ying had used this lame excuse just like that. In the eyes of the audience, it was not because Ying did not have time to leave, but rather, it was as if he had seen something extremely frightening and wanted to leave in fear. That was a close call. If I had taken 1 more step, I'm afraid my blood would have been spilled on the spot. Ying looked very calm on the surface, but deep in his heart, he felt like a raging storm. At the moment when he approached Gohan's dragon throne, Ying suddenly felt 2 extremely strong killing intents enveloping him. If he dared to take 1 more step forward, the 2 killing intents would tear him into pieces without any hesitation. This was not the first time Ying had experienced such a feeling. He could still clearly remember that when the man named Jing Ku came to him with the map of Yen Kingdom's supervisor Kong, he had the same feeling in his heart. At that time, Ying was just the weakest Grand Magus, while Jing Ku was a heaven immortal assassin meticulously cultivated by the Mount Shu sword sect. There was a huge gap between the overall strength of both of them. If not for the timely protection from the Grand Magi of Wu people, perhaps Ying would have been killed by Jing Ku. No, this feeling is 10 times stronger than Jing Ku's. I'm really going to die here. Ying's heart was still filled with fear, so much so that he did not even care about his basic face. He simply found a lame excuse and prepared to leave this place. Big brother Yaoguang, since you're already here, why don't you stay here for a while longer? Don't worry, with me here, no one will dare to do anything to you. Just when Ying was about to leave through the Void Gate, another Void Gate opened up right after him, and a figure that even until now Gohan had been dreaming about walked out from it. Chapter 1255. Miss Ling. It's Miss Ling. Miss Ling is finally here. I thought she wasn't coming. Seeing Liuyan Ling walk out of the Void Gate, the surrounding immortal sword wielders all stood up to welcome her. Their attitude was much more respectful than when Gohan had appeared. From this, one could see how much influence the Liuyan family had in the human world. It was not something that Gohan, who had suddenly appeared, could compare to. In fact, the human world's attitude towards Gohan was still a little vague. The appearance of the Ocean Emperor was a great thing, and everyone came to congratulate Gohan. However, deep down, they did not really approve of Gohan. It was because of Gohan's identity. Although Gohan could defeat the flood-level Yuan Ko and become an Emperor sword wielder, he might be able to crush everyone and start a new era. However, Gohan was still a spirit sword-level sword wielder at the moment. Becoming an immortal sword level and an Emperor sword level was not something that could be achieved with just one's abilities. The key was to see if one could gain the recognition of an Emperor sword level swordmistress. Before Gohan could truly synchronize with an Emperor swordmistress, anything was possible. Perhaps in the future, Gohan would fade into the crowd. Of course, the most important thing was that these people were very jealous of Gohan. Why did the Ocean Emperor's good fortune fall into his hands? Why didn't it fall into their hands? Gohan was also aware of this situation. Other than feeling a little unhappy and sad, he did not have any other thoughts. Things like prestige and experience needed time to accumulate. In the future, these people would sooner or later grovel under his authority. Greetings, seniors. Liu Ling greeted the surrounding immortal sword wielders. Ling, no need to be so polite. These immortal sword wielders grabbed Liu Ling's hand, indicating that she did not need to be so polite. Who am I? Ling. Actually, just like these immortal sword wielders, Gohan was very excited about Liu Ling's appearance. After all, this was the first time Gohan had seen Liu Ling after more than 2 years. Most of the time, Gohan would silently think of Liu Ling. Although he would not shed tears for her, he could not help but feel sour in his heart. She was the only woman who could make Gohan feel this way other than the sword mistress and Artoria. Liu Ling greets Your Majesty. On behalf of the Liu family, Liu Ling congratulates Your Majesty. Compared to Gohan's excitement, Liu Ling's expression was much calmer. She gave Gohan a very standard greeting, took a few steps back, and turned to Zheng. Brother Yaoguang, since you're here, don't be in a hurry to leave. Let's congratulate Your Majesty together. All right. Zheng nodded. Although he did not know why Liu Ling was helping him this time, with Liu Ling's help, Zheng would no longer be afraid of Gohan. Naturally, there was no need for him to be in a hurry to leave. In fact, Zheng did not want to leave at all, because he desperately wanted to make a deal with Gohan. Ever since he left Shanhai Pass, Zheng had been very popular in the human society with the title of being the human ancestor, the savior of mankind, and the third emperor sword wielder. More importantly, after Zheng obtained the 11 drops of Zhu Wu's blood essence, he could not wait to become the real Zhu Wu through Zhu Wu's blood essence. Zheng was indeed a genius of the Wu people. It only took him 2 years to fuse all 11 drops of Zhu Wu's blood essence into his body. His strength was more than 10 times stronger than when he was in Shanhai Pass, and he even absorbed the power of rules in Zhu Wu's blood essence. Zheng was confident that even if he faced a flood-level Yuan Ko, he would still be able to put up a fight. That was why Zheng had the confidence to find trouble with Gohan. However, no matter how hard Zheng tried, he was always a little bit away from the last step. He could not advance to the level of the real Zhu Wu. At most, he could only advance to the limit of the Great Magus. Only then did Zheng realize that all 12 drops of Zhu Wu's blood essence were indispensable. If he could not find the last Great Magus, Chang'e, and obtain the drop of Zhu Wu's blood essence guarded by Chang'e, Zheng would never be able to become the real Zhu Wu. Because the world was peaceful at the moment, the defense in Shanhai Pass was not as tight as before, or rather, it was very lax. Therefore, Zheng snuck into Shanhai Pass very easily. Using the mystic art of the Wu people, he searched the place for a while, and he really found the clue left behind by Chang'e. He learned that Chang'e had given the last drop of Zhu Wu's blood essence to Gohan. Or perhaps this clue was left behind by Chang'e on purpose, because she knew that Zheng would find it sooner or later. Therefore, the fact that Chang'e gave the last drop of Zhu Wu's blood essence to Gohan became a very malicious act. When Zheng learned the truth of the matter, he did not think much of it. He felt that with his current strength, it would be a piece of cake to defeat Gohan. If Gohan knew what was good for him and took the initiative to give him the blood essence of Zhu Wu's blood essence, then that would be fine. But if he did not, Ing Zheng did not mind using force to make Gohan yield. Unfortunately, Gohan was missing at that time, and Ing Zheng had no idea where Gohan was. So, he could only drop the matter. To Ing Zheng's great surprise, when he received the news of Gohan again, Gohan had already cooperated with Longshu Jiandi to defeat 3 Hong-level Yuan-Kos, and had even become the Emperor of the Ocean, which was somewhat inexplicable. This made Ing Zheng feel jealous and resentful. So, he planned to embarrass Gohan during Gohan's ascension ceremony, and even seize the position of the Emperor of the Ocean, using it to force Gohan to give him the last drop of Zhu Wu's blood essence. Originally, Ing Zheng thought that his plan was foolproof. With his strength that was infinitely close to the strength of an Emperor sword-level sword wielder, he could easily defeat Gohan, the lucky guy. But Ing Zheng never thought that before he could fight with Gohan, he would be scared off by the 2 hidden auras, and what was even more unexpected to Ing Zheng was that Liu Ling, who was originally standing on the side of Gohan, was standing with him today, and even wanted to help him. Obviously, when they were in Shanhai Pass, Liu Ling also wanted to kill him. But Liu Ling's tone did not sound like she was pretending. Instead, there was a bit of sincerity in it, which made Ing Zheng finally decide to stay and see what was really going on. Anyway, Ing Zheng felt that even if he could not defeat her, he could still run away. "Brother Yaoguang, take a seat." Liu Ling found a seat and sat down, then pointed to the seat next to her and said to Ing Zheng. Ing Zheng smiled and sat down obediently. This seat was originally prepared for the immortal sword-level sword wielder. Ing Zheng was unwilling to sit on it previously, as he felt that it would be embarrassing. But now that Liu Ling invited him to sit, Ing Zheng went with the flow and sat on Liu Ling's words. Seeing Ing Zheng and Liu Ling sit at the same time, the guests present were a little disappointed, but at the same time, they were relieved. They were disappointed because the guests present thought that they would be able to see an exciting battle, but they were relieved because the conflict between humans had been suppressed in the end. No one present had shed all pretenses of cordiality, so the coronation ceremony could continue. "Prime Minister Turtle, continue with the next ceremony," Gohan said to Prime Minister Turtle. Prime Minister Turtle nodded and shouted, "The Ascension ceremony will now begin. Your Majesty Emperor of the Sea, please take your seat." The so-called, "take your seat," actually meant to be seated. The Emperor of the Sea's dragon throne behind Gohan immediately bloomed with a magnificent light, as if it was welcoming its owner. And Gohan did not stand on ceremony, and sat on the Emperor of the Sea's dragon throne. Clap, 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 clap. Suddenly, there was a lonely applause in the hall. Everyone saw Li Bai, Misaka Mikoto, and the other Yuan-Ko's area suddenly applauding in unison. On the other hand, the humans themselves did not react for a while. Clap, clap, clap. Fortunately, Longshu Jiandi reacted quickly. Less than a second after Yuan-Ko's applause sounded, he also began to applaud. Longshu Jiandi's applause also inspired the other guests present. There was a thunderous applause in the hall. Even if some people were reluctant, for the common interests of humans, they had to start applauding and cheering for Gohan's seat. Otherwise, they would become a laughingstock in front of the Yuan-Kos. "Sooner or later, I will make all of you applaud me with all your heart." Gohan sighed helplessly in his heart when he saw that the audience's hearts were divided. At the same time, he said to himself, Gohan believed that it would not be long before all humans would applaud him sincerely. "Next, let's invite Your Majesty Emperor of the Sea to give a speech," Prime Minister Turtle said. The guests below the stage also learned to be obedient and began to applaud in cooperation. "Dear guests and distinguished guests, welcome to my Ascension ceremony." During the Ascension ceremony, Gohan naturally had to give a speech. However, as soon as Gohan opened his mouth, his words were a bit harsh. I know that many of you here do not think that I am qualified to sit in this seat. After saying this, Gohan glanced at all the guests below the stage. Those ordinary people naturally lowered their heads in fear, but many of the sword-bearers raised their heads high and looked directly into Gohan's eyes, especially those sword-bearers of immortal sword rank. Except for Sword Immortal Ling Su and Sword Immortal Pirate, the rest of the sword-bearers of immortal sword rank had a somewhat different look in their eyes. I also know that in the eyes of all of you, my position as Sea Emperor really came out of nowhere. It is as if it fell from the sky and smashed me on the head. Gohan sneered, however. I would also like to ask everyone to think about it. If the Sea Emperor's throne were to fall from the sky, who would be able to catch it at the first moment and not be crushed to death by this throne? Chapter 1256. Gohan's words caused many of the guests to secretly nod. Indeed, even if the Sea Emperor's position was smashed in front of them, they would not be able to catch it before they were smashed to death. In any case, to be able to sit in this position and have so many experts come to congratulate him, this in itself was a kind of strength. I won't say any more superfluous words, there is no meaning in saying them. However, there are some words of gratitude that must be said. Without them, I, Gohan, would not be able to sit in this position today. Gohan said faintly. Everyone couldn't help but be curious about who Gohan wanted to thank. First of all, I want to thank my most adorable concubine, Qingpin. If it weren't for her, I would still be in Yuzhong City, unable to make decisions for my own fate. After Gohan finished speaking, a Qingpin wearing a pure white princess dress and snow-white stockings rushed up from the backstage. She directly jumped into Gohan's arms, sat on Gohan's neck, and began to fiddle with the crown on Gohan's head. Concubine Qingpin, you can't. Qingpin's actions scared the dragon ladies behind Qingpin, and they hurriedly went up to stop her. No need, this is the Qingpin I like, you all can go down. Gohan waved his hand, signaling the dragon ladies to step down. He allowed Qingpin to ride on his neck without the slightest dissatisfaction. This is His Majesty the Sea Emperor's ancient sword Maiden, Qingpin's sword? The guests below the stage were talking among themselves. At this time, they realized that the person Gohan wanted to thank was his sword Maiden. Ladies and gentlemen, the sword Maiden riding on His Majesty the Sea Emperor's neck is His Majesty the Sea Emperor's ancient sword Maiden, Qingpin's sword. She is His Majesty the Sea Emperor's first sword Maiden and has a deep relationship with His Majesty the Sea Emperor. Everyone, look, His Majesty the Sea Emperor and concubine Qingpin are so harmonious and loving. The host explained excitedly. At the same time, Qingpin's adorable appearance was also transmitted to the audience through the camera. The cute little Lolita, Qingpin, instantly captured the hearts of many lolicons. After the live broadcast ended, many Qingpin fan groups were established overnight. However, because there were some extremely discordant content in the groups, these fan groups were severely suppressed by the officials. Most of them were forcefully disbanded, but some of them went underground and many books about Qingpin were created. Next, I have to thank my lady Etian. Without her, I would not have been able to return alive from Chongyang Mountain's trial array. As soon as Gohan finished speaking, Etian walked out in a luxurious gown. However, Etian's expression was very ugly. The gown made Etian feel extremely uncomfortable, as if there were dozens of safety belts strapped to her body. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Lady Etian, who explained the Sea Emperor Palace to us in front of the camera. However, our Lady Etian doesn't look very happy. I wonder if she has put on some weight. The host joked innocently. I also have to thank Juzi Sword. Without her, Yuzhong City would have been destroyed during the Great Purge 3 years ago. It was her hard work that allowed her to persevere until my master arrived. After Gohan finished speaking, Juzi, who was wearing a black gown and black stockings, also walked out. The black gown made Juzi look especially cold and elegant. Moreover, Juzi's actions were also cold and determined. Throughout the whole process, there was not the slightest change in her expression. Even when she stood next to Gohan, she looked like a wooden person. Juzi, this gown suits you very well. You are really beautiful today. You have amazed me. Gohan was telling the truth. In the past, Juzi had always worn her simple warrior suit. Although it was also black, it covered her from head to toe, which could not show off her beauty at all. Until today, under Chidien and Gohan's orders, Juzi had no choice but to wear this beautiful black gown. In an instant, Juzi's breathtaking beauty bloomed. Gohan could not help but be a little surprised. He had never noticed Juzi's beauty. "Thank you, master." Juzi, who had always been expressionless, had a rare blush on her face. This was also the first time Gohan had seen such a blush. Such a blush was like the red flower buds on a black begonia, so beautiful that it made people dizzy. Like Ching Pin, Juzi's appearance this time instantly captured the hearts of a large number of fans. Because Juzi was the third to appear, Juzi's fans affectionately called Juzi 33 Orange. I also have to thank Zhu Xian Sword Lady and Zhu Xian Sword Lady. Without them, I would not have been able to sit on the dragon throne of the Sea Emperor. As soon as Gohan's voice fell, Zhu Xian Sword Lady and Zhu Xian Sword Lady walked out wearing the same red and blue cheongsam. These two were extremely tall. Not only were they taller than the other sword ladies, they were even taller than Gohan by half a head. Standing beside Gohan, they were as dazzling as two suns. Especially the slender thighs that were exposed through the cheongsam, under the illumination of the night pearls, they emitted a dazzling flesh-colored radiance. Just looking at these two flawless thighs, some people could not help but feel their breathing quicken as a certain part of their body underwent a dramatic change. Especially those sword-bearers, their eyeballs almost popped out as they stared fixedly at Zhu Xian Sword Lady and Zhu Xian Sword Lady. They looked like they could not wait to walk up and shake these two sword ladies up and down. But don't get the wrong idea, these sword-bearers were not blinded by lust. If they wanted beautiful women, there were plenty of beautiful women in this world. They would not be so shameless as to make a move on other people's sword ladies. The reason why these sword-bearers behaved so rudely was entirely because of the identity of Zhu Xian Sword Lady and Zhu Xian Sword Lady. As these two sword ladies officially appeared in front of all the sword-bearers present, the rumor that Gohan had two spirit sword-bearers at the same time had finally become a fact, an irrefutable fact. Although they were already mentally prepared, when such a fact appeared in front of them, all the sword-bearers inevitably began to feel shortness of breath and other symptoms. Even if they racked their brains, they could not understand why Gohan could have two spirit sword-bearers at the same time. Ladies and gentlemen, it has finally appeared, the legend of His Majesty the Sea Emperor has finally become a reality. Let us witness this great miracle together. This perhaps represents the arrival of a new era for mankind. The host said excitedly to the camera. His Majesty the Sea Emperor, I have a question, and I hope Your Majesty the Sea Emperor can answer it generously. Seeing the appearance of Zhu Xian Sword Lady and Zhu Xian Sword Lady, an immortal sword-bearer finally could not help but stand up from his seat and ask Gohan this question. This must be Sword Immortal Qian Yu from Yanjing City. Gohan waved his hand, indicating that the other party should not speak for now. I already understand Sword Immortal Qian Yu's intention, but now is not the time to answer. I have an even bigger surprise for you all. All right. After hesitating for a while, Sword Immortal Qian Yu sat back down. I still have to thank. When Sword Immortal Qian Yu sat down, Gohan began to thank her. The Sword Lady has already thanked everyone. This time we should thank parents, Master, Sword Committee, CCTV, and so on. I didn't think that even Sea Emperor could not be exempted, the guests below the stage said impatiently. What kind of meeting was there every time? They had to thank a bunch of useless people and things. They were already sick of it. They had thought that His Majesty the Sea Emperor could break away from these conventions, but now it seemed that they had overestimated him. This thought had just appeared in their minds, but in the next second, they were so shocked that they could not even speak. I still have to thank Lady Shishui. Without her, many things in this world would not have happened. After Gohan said this, Shishui, who was wearing a purple gown, took a deep breath and walked step by step from backstage to the stage. What? The 9 immortal sword rank sword bearers present, including Sword Immortal Ling Su and Sword Immortal Pirate, all jumped up from their seats at the same time. They stared at Shishui with such disbelief in their eyes that they could not even close their mouths as they stared fixedly at Shishui. Fortunately, Shishui's personality was cold and detached. Otherwise, she would really have been given a huge fright by these sword-bearers. That's right, there was also Long Shurjiendi. If not for his status as an emperor sword-bearer, he would probably have jumped up from his seat like these immortal sword-bearers. Your Majesty the Sea Emperor, what do you mean by this? Is this also your sword-mistress? Sword Immortal Qian Yu asked, trembling. Of course, Shishui is my ancient sword-rank sword-mistress. Gohan's finger gently stroked Shishui's back, and an insubstantial light appeared at the same time as Gohan's finger. On her back was the hilt of the past water sword. Only by stroking the hilt of his own sword-mistress would such a light appear. Plop! Sword Immortal Qian Yu sat back down. He had already mentally prepared himself, but he really did not expect that Gohan still had the ability to create such big news at a time like this. Isn't this Rina Takasaka? At the same time, Song Hama, who was sitting close to the center, suddenly exclaimed while covering his mouth. He suddenly realized that the past water sword in front of him was exactly the same as his classmate Rina Takasaka. Rina, why are you here? Liu Ling also recognized Rina Takasaka. She looked at the past water sword in surprise. Rina Takasaka was her childhood playmate, but she had completely disappeared 3 years ago. She had asked Fleeting Wooden Fish about Rina Takasaka's whereabouts, but Fleeting Wooden Fish had not answered her. Liu Ling had never expected Rina Takasaka to become Gohan's sword mistress. Everyone, please sit down. I haven't finished thanking the people I want to thank. Gohan smiled and continued, I want to thank my beloved sister Du. Without her, my life would not be complete. What the F***CK, there's another one, don't tell me you have another one. This was what all the sword-bearers were thinking. Chapter 1257. Seeing a little girl who looked very similar to Gohan appear beside Gohan, all the guests present drew in a sharp breath. One had to realize that Gohan was introducing himself as his sword maiden, but the person he said was his little sister. Could it be that this little girl named Duyu's sword was also Gohan's little sister? Regarding my little sister Guyun, also known as Doyu, there are some things that I have to tell everyone. Gohan hugged Duyu and said, just as everyone has guessed, my little sister was not originally a sword maiden, but my biological little sister, big brother. Hearing Gohan's words, Doyu instantly turned pale with fright as she looked up at Gohan. At the same time, she reached out to cover Gohan's mouth, but Gohan was caught in her palm instead. Yun-er, listen to Big Brother. Big Brother has the power to protect you now. I believe that everyone has a good understanding of my background, and that I indeed have a biological little sister, Gu-yun, who died in the Great Invasion more than 10 years ago. However, due to some reasons that I can't explain, my little sister's soul and the body of the sword maiden fused together, and thus became my current treasured sword maiden, Doyu Sword. Of course, I came up with the name Doyu Sword on my own, it's not the original name of this sword maiden. Then, what was the original name of this sword maiden? An immortal sword tier sword wielder asked subconsciously. Oh, it's the Yuchang sword. Gohan replied in a nonchalant tone. What? It's the Yuchang sword. Sword Immortal Ling Su suddenly stood up from his chair, muttering to himself in a daze, I was wondering why I couldn't find any clues about the Yuchang's sword after almost 4 years. I thought that it had completely disappeared, but it turns out that it has become your sword, Maiden, Gohan." Hearing Sword Immortal Ling Su's words, the guests all sighed with emotion. Everyone present had heard about the disappearance of the Yuchang sword. When he first heard the news, he felt that it was a pity. However, as time passed, this matter was gradually forgotten. Who would have thought that it would actually pop up again at this point in time? "Dare I ask your Majesty the Sea Emperor, do you know the reason behind this? Why is your sister able to fuse with the Sword Maiden?" Immediately, an immortal sword-tier sword wielder jumped out and asked urgently, "Your Majesty, please answer truthfully. This is very important to us humans. I am Sword Immortal Yang, and I believe that I have done some research on the Sword Maiden. If we can uncover the secret behind the fusion of humans and sword ladies, then the gap between man-made sword ladies and natural sword ladies will no longer be an insurmountable barrier." Sword Immortal Yang was very agitated when he spoke. He even wanted to spit his saliva onto Gohan's face. "If I knew, I would definitely answer you, but the problem is that I don't know the reason behind it," Gohan said very sincerely. Sword Immortal Yang shook his head in pity. However, his eyes were still filled with suspicion. He suspected that Gohan was not telling the truth. Of course, Gohan was not telling the truth. In fact, Gohan knew quite a bit about Sword Immortal Yang. He was an immortal sword-tier sword wielder from Los Angeles City. He had devoted his entire life to researching how to create stronger man-made sword ladies. He had even published many papers, discussing the possibility of everyone becoming a sword wielder. At the same time, through some secret information, Gohan even discovered that Sword Immortal Yang had already secretly used human bodies to create man-made sword ladies. He wanted to fuse human souls into ordinary man-made sword ladies, creating man-made sword ladies that were comparable to natural sword ladies. Such research could be said to be utterly deplorable. Innocent young girls died in the hands of Sword Immortal Yang. From a certain perspective, Sword Immortal Yang was undoubtedly a demon. However, Sword Immortal Yang's research was also for the future of mankind. It was just like how Gohan knew that someone was researching atomic bombs. Although he knew that atomic bombs would cause the deaths of hundreds of thousands or even millions of people, Gohan could not stop the development of atomic bombs. This was because the application of nuclear energy was related to the future of the entire human race. It was not something that could be stopped for the sake of a few lives. If Sword Immortal Yang's research was successful and he really created man-made sword ladies that were comparable to natural sword ladies, mankind would become extremely powerful in the future. For this reason, Gohan pretended not to see Sword Immortal Yang's actions. However, now that Sword Immortal Yang had set his sights on his sister, Gohan could not accept it. He gave Sword Immortal Yang a meaningful look. Sword Immortal Yang nodded helplessly and sat back down, not daring to say anything else. "Your Majesty, Sovereign of the Seas, why didn't you tell me such an important matter earlier? There was a period of time when a few strands of my hair turned white because of the fishbowl sword." Sword Immortal Ling Su said with a bitter smile. "If I had told the truth back then, would my sister still be by my side? Now, there are still people who want to ask how my sister was able to fuse with the Sword Lady. If I wasn't the Sovereign of the Seas, my sister would probably have been snatched away by some people in the name of humanity." Gohan glanced at Sword Immortal Yang again. Sword Immortal Yang laughed dryly and hurriedly said, "I wouldn't dare. I wouldn't dare. Thank you for your understanding." Gohan sighed. If possible, Gohan actually did not want to reveal Guyun's true identity. However, Gohan did not want Guyun to continue hiding. The reason was very simple. Gohan wanted to be able to live openly with his sword ladies at any time, anywhere, and at any time. He did not want to reveal only 4 sword ladies at most like before. The other sword ladies had to hide in their scabbards. This was simply too unfair to the sword ladies. Therefore, this time, Guhan announced all of his sword ladies in one go so that his sword ladies could appear freely under the light. Of course, Guhan could also say that Doyu was only his sword lady and continue to hide Doyu's identity as his sister. However, deep in Guhan's heart, he felt that this was simply too unfair to Gu Yun. Why was Gu Yun the only one who had to continue hiding? More importantly, since Gu Yun was Guhan's sister, then Guhan wanted the whole world to know that Gu Yun was his biological sister. He would not allow his sister to continue hiding for some ridiculous reason. This was the original reason why Guhan was announcing all of this in front of the eyes of the world. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 2 spiritual sword rank sword maidens, 2 ancient sword rank sword maidens, 2 treasure sword rank sword maidens, and 1 famous sword rank sword maidens. Damn, we're still missing 1 famous sword rank sword maidens. Don't tell me the Sea King has assigned sword maidens of all ranks to them. Impossible. Where did he get so many sword ladies for Poseidon? Before another guest could finish his sentence, he was slapped in the face by Guhan's next sentence. I also want to thank my wife, Chidian. She has been by my side since the first day I entered the game. In the end, she even gave up everything to be with me. Thank you, my lady Chidian. As soon as Guhan finished speaking, Chidian, who was wearing the most beautiful white dress among all the sword ladies, rushed out from the backstage excitedly. At this time, Chidian's face was full of tears as she looked at Guhan. The reason was very simple. It was because Guhan had added a title in front of her name, which was the word wife. This was a title that no other sword lady had. This was a title that Guhan had acknowledged in front of almost all the people in the world. At this moment, Chidian's status was set. She had become Guhan's wife. Therefore, as soon as Chidian appeared, she threw herself into Guhan's arms and began to cry. She cried with a smile, looking very beautiful and bright. Seeing Chidian's excitement, the other sword ladies had their own reactions. For example, Chimpin was sitting on Guhan's neck, pulling out Guhan's hair unhappily. While crawling, she muttered, "Stupid Guhan. I can also be your wife. Didn't you say that you like Lolas the most?" On the other hand, Doyu was still immersed in the excitement of her identity being revealed. She did not react to Chidian at all. After all, she was Guhan's little sister. This was something that could never be changed. Therefore, among all the sword ladies, Doyu and Guhan's relationship stopped here. Whoever became Guhan's wife did not mean much to Doyu. Shui silently took a few steps back, putting more distance between her and Guhan. She also stood out among all the sword ladies. "Congratulations, Chidian." Itian took out her wine gourd and gulped down a few mouthfuls of wine. Her eyes were red as she said to Chidian. Among all the sword ladies, Itian and Chidian were the closest. Therefore, when Guhan appointed Chidian as Chidian's wife, Itian was truly happy for Chidian. However, Itian's heart was also filled with bitterness. How could she not wish that the person standing next to Guhan was herself? Juzi could be skipped because she did not react at all. What an enviable couple! Elder sister, if elder sister had appeared earlier, would the person who fell into Guhan's arms have been you? Extinguish Immortal Sword looked at the crying Chidian and said to Zhu Xian with some jealousy. What does that have to do with me? Zhu Xian's face flashed with panic. Do you think that with our identities, it's possible for us to be with this puny human? That's hard to say. If Guhan can really defeat the sect leader of Tongtian and fulfill his name of Hongjun, at that time, it won't be about whether he is worthy of us or not, but whether we are worthy of him or not. Then we'll talk after he defeats Tongtian, Zhu Xian said coldly. Chapter 1258. Oh, it seems that His Majesty the Ocean King is no exception. He actually married a sword lady. Yes. It seems that His Majesty the Ocean King and we are kindred spirits. Unlike the shock they received before, when Gohan announced that Starting Point was his wife, these sword-bearers were only slightly surprised. This was because there were many sword-bearers in the world who became companions with sword ladies, about 5% of them. After all, they were two people who spent every day together. If it wasn't for the limited lifespan of humans, and the fact that many sword ladies had already experienced love with their previous masters, so they no longer needed or desired love, and didn't want to fall in love with humans, this ratio would be several times higher. Sword-bearers and sword ladies falling in love wasn't anything new. There were 7 or 8 sword-bearers couples present, so when Gohan announced that Starting Point was his wife, there was a loud round of applause. This time, it was sincere applause. Of course, there was also some jealousy mixed in, for example, those sword-bearers who desperately pursued them, but were rejected by the sword ladies. However, some sword-bearers also noticed that Chidien's name was a brand new name. It was also a sword maiden that had never appeared in the database before. This made many people's stomachs ache. No. After careful calculation, Pauper Sword, Passing Water Sword, Doyu Sword, Juzi Sword, Chidien's Sword. It seemed like other than Heavenly Sword, Celestial Slaying Sword, and Celestial End Sword, all the other sword maidens were original sword maidens that had never appeared in the database. They were all sword maidens that had never experienced other sword bearers. Gohan's luck was heaven-defying. He was actually able to meet so many primordial sword ladies. This meant that these sword ladies were pure and flawless, whether it was in terms of their emotions or their bodies. If Gohan had tried his best, these sword ladies might not even have been taken in by him. When they thought about the sword ladies beside them who had already experienced many things and were able to see other things as clearly as candlelight, the swordsmen could not help but sigh in their hearts. This was too damn enviable. Most of the surrounding sword-bearers were either envious, congratulatory, or jealous. However, there was one person whose eyes were filled with sorrow and desolation. That person was Fleeting Time Ling, and there was no one else. He has his own wife. Liuyan Ling thought sadly, but that wife isn't me, Ling. What the hell are you thinking? He's someone you shouldn't love. He's someone who doesn't deserve your love. It's impossible for you to be with him. Why are you sad? But I'm sad. I'm sad. I'm sad. I'm so sad that I'm going crazy. Calm down. Calm down. No. I can't calm down. I really can't calm down. I want to go. I want to leave this place. You can't go. Don't forget why you're here. You're here to say goodbye to the past. No. Let me go. Let me go. This seemed to be a conversation between two people, but in fact, it was Liuyan Ling's inner struggle. At this time, Liuyan Ling's heart was like two crazy tsunamis colliding with each other. All kinds of thoughts were colliding with each other, making Liuyan Ling's heart feel like it was about to break. Her hand was clenching the armrest of the chair so hard that a handprint was left on the alloy chair. Looks like this is the reason why Liuyan Ling is helping me. No one else noticed this scene, but Ing Zheng saw it all, and a meaningful smile appeared on his face. For Ing Zheng, this was undoubtedly the perfect weakness of Liuyan Ling, a weakness that Ing Zheng could make good use of. In the end, Liuyan Ling calmed down. She sat there in a daze and did not make any other moves. She was as calm as a block of wood. All right. Don't cry, don't let so many people see you as a joke. Gohan lightly patted Chidien's shoulder and said. When Chidien, who usually cared about face the most, heard this, she let out a cry and quickly wiped away her tears. In just a few seconds, she put on a smiling face and looked at the guests below the stage. Come on. This time, all 8 sword ladies are here. There won't be any new sword ladies appearing. Some of the guests below the stage said sourly. Now, Gohan had 2 sword ladies from Ancient Sword to Spirit Sword. It's hard to say. Do you think there will be new sword ladies appearing? Another guest touched his forehead and said. No way. He's just a spirit sword wielder. Don't tell me he can have 3 sword ladies of the same level at the same time. The guest said very firmly. Ladies, please take your seats. Prime Minister Turtle shouted, and 8 phoenix chairs made of pure gold slowly descended from the sky, surrounding the Ocean Emperor's dragon throne. Seeing this, the guests who were arguing could finally breathe a sigh of relief. This Gohan finally didn't take out a new sword lady to scare them. Their little hearts really couldn't stand the appearance of the 9th sword lady. But what they didn't expect was that when all the sword ladies began to sit down, Gohan's pants suddenly began to shake violently. It looked as if someone was tugging at Gohan's pants. Huh! At this moment, Gohan's trousers successfully attracted everyone's attention. They all stared at Gohan's trousers. Even the cameras in the distance were no exception. This scene looked extremely strange, and there was something strange about it. Everyone quickly discovered that the one tugging at Gohan's pants wasn't a person, but a long sword hanging on Gohan's waist. Only now did the guests notice that in addition to the 8 sword ladies that had already appeared, there was another long sword hanging on Gohan's waist. Could it be? An ominous premonition surged in the hearts of all the guests at the same time. Let me out. I don't want to stay in the scabbard anymore. What the F***ck? Gohan, is this how you treat this old lady? Gohan's face instantly became incomparably embarrassed. He instinctively wanted to put the sword back into the dimensional pocket, but he heard that loud voice again. F***ck. If you dare to put me in the dimensional pocket, I won't let you off for the rest of my life. Do you believe that you'll stop at spirit sword level for the rest of your life? Other than a bitter smile, Gohan couldn't make any other expression on his face. He helplessly loosened his grip on the scabbard, and the sword directly flew out of the scabbard. In the next second, it directly pressed against Gohan's neck. Wow, you Gohan! You're not going to admit it after you F***ck me. It's fine if you let me stay in the scabbard, but if you don't give me the title of Madam today, I won't let you off. Without a doubt, this voice came from our Xian Yuan sword. Originally, according to Gohan's plan, he didn't want to announce the existence of Xian Yuan's sword for the time being. He discussed with Xian Yuan's sword in advance, and let Xian Yuan's sword temporarily stay in the scabbard to participate in the whole enthronement ceremony. Although Xian Yuan's sword was a little dissatisfied with this, it finally agreed to Gohan's request, so it was put on Gohan's waist by Gohan. But the problem was that Gohan didn't tell Xian Yuan's sword that he would announce that Chi-Dian was his wife in front of everyone. In fact, besides Gohan himself, no one else knew about Gohan's plan. Gohan had already made up his mind to give Chi-Dian a surprise. But Gohan didn't expect that this matter would ignite Xian Yuan's sword's anger. Especially when 8 phoenix chairs fell, but there was no position for Xian Yuan's sword. Our Xian Yuan's sword completely exploded, completely throwing aside its agreement with Gohan, and began to make a ruckus in anger. This greatly exceeded Gohan's expectations, and made Gohan extremely embarrassed. Who is this sword lady? How can she speak so vulgarly? She keeps saying this lady, and F***ck. It's really vulgar. But our Emperor of the Sea is too shameless. Not only did he make love with a sword lady, he actually found another sword lady. I'm really envious. Hearing Xian Yuan's sword's incomparably vulgar words, everyone present couldn't help but frown. These people could be said to be the upper echelons of the human race, and they usually paid attention to elegance and temperament. Who would have thought that a sword lady would actually say such vulgar words in such a solemn and grand occasion? Even if this person was a sword lady, the guests couldn't help but feel some disgust from the bottom of their hearts. At the same time, they also felt some disgust towards Gohan. Unlike ordinary human women who he casually played with, the love between a sword-bearer and a sword lady was monogamous. If the sword-bearer dared to have sex with a second sword lady, although he wouldn't be punished by the law, he would be criticized by public opinion. What a familiar sound of scolding this sword lady is! Although those obscenities aroused the disgust of most of the guests, it made one person's expression change in an instant, and his brows instantly knitted together. Xian Yuan's sword. Inspiration flashed in his mind, and Long Shi Jiandi stood up. He remembered that this voice belonged to the Xian Yuan sword that he and Haotian Jiandi had fought over in the training array, and in the end, this Xian Yuan sword was taken away by Gohan. In this way, it was only natural that the Xian Yuan sword was in Gohan's hands. Get lost. This old lady has no time to talk to you. This old lady wants to explain to this fickle and untrustworthy man today. The Xian Yuan sword ignored Long Shi Jiandi, and continued to quarrel with Gohan. Such a solemn coronation ceremony had become somewhat ridiculous at this moment. Other people might be able to laugh, but none of the immortal sword-rank sword-bearers present could laugh. Just now, when Long Shi Jiandi had said the 3 words Xian Yuan sword, they had also heard it clearly. At the same time, these immortal sword-rank sword-bearers also knew what the 3 words Xian Yuan sword represented. It was the Emperor's sword-rank sword lady that had never appeared before, but was known in all legends as the strongest sword lady of mankind, the Xian Yuan sword. Just now, the Xian Yuan sword had said that she and Gohan had made love, and if they wanted to make love, they must have a physical body. Didn't this mean that the Xian Yuan sword had successfully synchronized with Gohan? Could it be that the Xian Yuan sword had also become the sword lady of the Sea Emperor? At this moment, the bodies of all the immortal sword-rank sword-bearers were cold. Chapter 1259. Once the Xian Yuan sword's temper flared up, even Gohan could not do anything about it. After a while, Gohan finally managed to appease the Xian Yuan sword. He even gave up his throne and laid the Xian Yuan sword on it. Only then did the great ancestor's anger dissipate. Cough, cough. Gohan coughed awkwardly. Because he had given up his throne to the Xian Yuan sword, he could only stand awkwardly and say, "Everyone, don't panic. The relationship between me and the Xian Yuan sword lady is not that of a sword bearer and a sword lady. It's just that the Xian Yuan sword lady is on good terms with me, so she's temporarily staying by my side." Only a fool would believe your explanation. The guests below the stage gave him the middle finger at the same time. You've already slept with her. How could you only have a good relationship with the Xian Yuan sword? You're lying through your teeth. However, none of the guests present dared to show any disrespect or look down on Gohan. The biggest challenge to becoming an Emperor sword wielder was to gain the recognition of an Emperor sword mistress and synchronize with the Emperor sword mistress. Now, the biggest problem in front of Gohan was no longer a problem. Although Gohan and the Xian Yuan sword had been fighting and looking very unhappy, everyone could see that the relationship between Gohan and the Xian Yuan sword was not ordinary. It was very likely that, as the Xian Yuan sword had said, the two of them had already had a physical relationship. If that was the case, there would be no difficulty in synchronizing Gohan and the Xian Yuan sword. As long as Gohan's sword essence reached the standard, he would be able to activate conquering the 9 states in the next second and become an emperor. With the abilities that Gohan had displayed, the success rate of seize the throne of the 9 states was almost 100%. As such, Gohan would be like his disciple, Lu Shihua, and would definitely become an Emperor sword-level sword wielder. The other sword wielder present had no choice but to respect Gohan. Alright, Prime Minister Turtle, we can begin the final ascension ceremony. Gohan heaved a sigh of relief after finally settling the Xian Yuan sword. He turned his head and said to Prime Minister Turtle. Prime Minister Turtle nodded his turtle head. Just as he was about to speak, he was once again mercilessly interrupted. Hold on, I still have one more thing. A somewhat deep female voice said. Miss Ling, what can I do for you? Gohan looked at Liunian Ling hesitantly. Gohan didn't expect Liunian Ling to jump out and interrupt him. Your Majesty the Sea Emperor. Liu Ling took a deep breath. This time, other than representing the Liu Nian family to attend your enthronement ceremony, I am also representing the Sword Committee's will. Your Majesty the Sea Emperor, don't forget that you are still a wanted criminal of the 8 cities Sword Committee. So, the Sword Committee wants to arrest me and put me in jail? That's good too. I have something to discuss with the Sword Committee, Guhan snorted coldly. He didn't have a good impression of the Sword Committee anymore. Don't worry, it's not a bad thing. I believe that Your Majesty the Sea Emperor doesn't want to hold your enthronement ceremony with the title of a wanted criminal. Liu Ling said, and a thin document flew out of her dimensional pocket. This is the official document of the Sword Committee. Your Majesty the Sea Emperor can take a look. Let me see. Guhan took the document and glanced at it. His face suddenly relaxed. This document had a straightforward title, On the Revocation of Comrade Guhan's Wanted Order. Just like the title said, this was the document issued by the Sword Committee to revoke Guhan's wanted order. It meant that Guhan assisted Longsher Jindi to kill the 3 flood-level Yuan Ko, and made a great contribution to mankind. At the same time, Longsher Jindi took the initiative to withdraw the prosecution against Guhan, so the Sword Committee also revoked Guhan's wanted order. From then on, Guhan was a normal swordsman again, just with a disgraceful criminal record. Of course, this criminal record meant nothing to Guhan. The Sword Committee has finally done something. Guhan smiled and put the document into his dimensional pocket. Although he didn't care much about the wanted order from the Sword Commission, at least the ban on him was lifted in name. He could appear in the base city openly again. Lin, thank you for coming all the way here. Guhan stretched out his right hand, ready to shake hands with Liu Ling. This made the others quite jealous. It should be known that this was the first time Guhan took the initiative to shake hands with someone. Seeing Guhan stretch out his hand, Liu Ling instinctively wanted to respond to Guhan, but the next second, her eyes flashed, and she withdrew her hand. No need, it's just business. All right. Guhan smiled bitterly and withdrew his hand. In the eyes of others, this smile could be said to be meaningful. Many old generals who had been in love for a long time guessed, could it be that there is a story between Poseidon and the descendant of the Liunian family? If that's the case, Poseidon will be invincible in the future. Sigh. Guhan sighed and swept his gaze over all the guests. He said with a straight face, I wonder if there is anyone else here that needs this emperor to deal with? Say it now, lest this emperor ignores you later. Including the immortal sword-bearers, no one stood out to express their opinion again. Guhan nodded and waved his hand at Prime Minister Turtle. Prime Minister Turtle could finally shout out the following words. Respectfully, Your Majesty Poseidon, please ascend the throne. This Prime Minister Turtle was quite pitiful. He only managed to speak after being interrupted 4 times. To think of my glorious sea, after thousands of years, although the dragon race of the 4 seas prospered, there was not a single emperor who could command the 4 seas. Today we have the human Guhan, an outstanding talent who is unparalleled for thousands of years. He is accomplished in both literature and martial arts, ruling over the world. The dragon kings of the 4 seas are willing to bow and kowtow to Guhan, respectfully, to become the Poseidon of the world, to rule over the sea race, and to leave his name in history. Although Prime Minister Turtle was a turtle, his voice was a little shrill. Perhaps it was because he was a professional at this after all. His words were grand and inspiring. There was no interruption in the middle, and there was no stutter. It perfectly set off the domineering aura of the Poseidon level. In order to display the glory and supreme might of the Poseidon, the dragon kings of the 4 seas are willing to offer their connate spiritual treasures to Your Majesty Poseidon. When Prime Minister Turtle finished his last sentence, the entire hall seemed to explode. What? The dragon kings of the 4 seas are willing to offer their connate spiritual treasures. Upon hearing Prime Minister Turtle's words, the guests present were slightly shocked. It looked like Gohan had truly made the Dragon Kings of the Four Seas submit. Otherwise, they would definitely not offer their connate spiritual treasures. Humans might not know all the combat strength of the Dragon Kings of the Four Seas, but they knew one thing. Each of the Dragon Kings of the Four Seas had a connate numinous treasure. These four connate spiritual treasures were the most powerful weapons of the Dragon Kings of the Four Seas. They were also the reason why the dragon race could truly suppress the Four Seas. A connate spiritual treasure could increase the strength of the Dragon Kings of the Four Seas by more than a few times. It was said that the four connate spiritual treasures combined had the power equivalent to a desolate grade Yuan Ko. In the beginning, many people thought that Gohan's Poseidon was fishy. It was probably just a facade, something the Dragon Kings of the Four Seas had done to deceive humans. However, when Prime Minister Turtle said that the Dragon Kings of the Four Seas were offering their connate spiritual treasures, everyone realized that the Poseidon was not fake. It was the real Poseidon. The Dragon King of the South Sea, Aochin, offers the glass jade bottle to Your Majesty the Poseidon. The first to appear was the Dragon King of the South Sea, Aochin. A black dragon whizzed in from the entrance and spiraled along the wall of the hall, setting off a gust of wind with the smell of the sea. The ordinary human guests were blown askew. Finally, the black dragon transformed into a human form and knelt respectfully at the feet of Gohan. At the same time, a woman walked out from the backstage with a tray. On the tray was a crystal-clear bottle. The Dragon King of the South Sea, Aochin, congratulates Your Majesty the Poseidon on your coronation. May Your Majesty the Poseidon surpass the brilliance of the sun and moon, seize the fortune of heaven and earth, and be immortal for countless eras. The Dragon King of the South Sea, Aochin, gave his blessings with great respect. Attention, everyone. The one who is now on the stage is the Dragon King of the South Sea, Aochin. This Dragon King is incredible. According to our information, more than 5 flood-level Yuan Ko have died in his hand. Among us humans, 3 spirit sword-level sword-bearers have died in his hand. The Dragon King of the South Sea has dominated the entire South Sea for 1,000 years. He is the supreme king of the South Sea, but now he has to bend his knees and kneel in front of us humans. This is an unprecedented glory for us humans in the past 1,000 years. The host held the microphone and excitedly explained to the audience in front of the TV. By the way, have you noticed that the Dragon King of the South Sea is not wearing a dragon robe, but a python robe? This is a very interesting thing. The Dragon King of the South Sea is a real dragon, but he still wears a python robe. This is really ridiculous. Then we will focus on the glass jade bottle that the Dragon King of the South Sea has presented to Your Majesty the Poseidon. This glass jade bottle is a primordial spiritual treasure, which is a legendary magic treasure with the power of rule. It is a magic treasure that only Yuan Ko above the flood level can use. The host could be considered knowledgeable. She could even talk about the knowledge of primordial spiritual treasures. She continued, "Legend has it that the primordial spiritual treasure contains a strong power of rule. If the power of rule contained in this primordial spiritual treasure is consistent with the power of rule of Yuan Ko, then it can stimulate an unparalleled power. For example, this glass jade bottle in the hands of the Dragon King of the South Sea. So, this glass jade bottle can be said to be the lifeblood of the Dragon King of the South Sea. Now that he has voluntarily sent his lifeblood to the hands of Your Majesty the Poseidon, it means that he has completely surrendered." Chapter 1260. Legend has it that this glass jade bottle has the power of wind that can absorb all things. Can absorb everyone in the world, and in less than 3 minutes, they will be reduced to a puddle of pus. It is a very frightening connate spiritual treasure. The host introduced the glass jade bottle to the audience. Then his eyes inadvertently glanced up, and he suddenly felt a little awkward. because the woman holding the glass jade bottle was not the dragon lady from before, but a real human woman. The host could be sure of this because not long ago, the host had an unpleasant encounter with this woman at the gates of Yuzhang City. Yes, the woman holding the glass jade bottle was Wen Meiyun. Sigh. The host smacked his head in regret. Wen Meiyun's appearance proved that what Lu Shihua had said was true. This Wen Meiyun was indeed one of His Majesty the Sea King's people. He had offended His Majesty the Sea King in a moment of carelessness. This mature woman looked like she had a good temper, but this mature woman's daughter was a very troublesome woman. The host was already starting to feel afraid. What if that daughter tormented him in Yuzhang City after he returned? Of course, the host's little thoughts were not known to others. Even if they knew, no one would be interested in it. He was just a host. Important people only had to wave their hands, and they could strip naked, take women to bed, and do whatever they wanted. There were many women like this. If it could make His Majesty the Sea King happy, then it was no big deal. Thank you, South Sea Dragon King. Great Dragon King, please rise. Guhan helped the Dragon King of the Southern Sea, Aochin, up, after which a chair appeared out of thin air. With the support of Guhan, the Dragon King of the Southern Sea sat on the chair. Next, East Sea Dragon King Ao Guang, West Sea Dragon King Ao Run, and North Sea Dragon King Ao Shun also appeared. Unsurprisingly, they offered their connate spiritual treasures to Guhan. Among them, East Sea Dragon King Ao Guang offered the Dragon Striker Whip. It was said to be a connate spiritual treasure that could restrain all dragons. It could cause about 10 times the damage to dragons. An immortal sword wielder wielding the Dragon Striker Whip could easily defeat one of the 4 seas Dragon Kings. It was worth mentioning that this restraint was directed at all dragons in the world. In other words, regardless of whether it was the true Dragon Clan or the Giant Dragon Clan, they would all be restrained by the Dragon Striker Whip. The Dragon Striker Whip could be said to be the most feared magic treasure of the Dragon Clan. Now that the true Dragon Clan had taken the initiative to offer this magic treasure to Guhan, it meant that they were offering the fate of their entire clan to Guhan. It could be said that they were full of sincerity. As for the West Sea Dragon King Ao Run, he offered the Mystic Essence Water Control Flag. This connate numinous treasure was one of the legendary 4 numinous treasures. It could control the water veins of the world. With this flag in hand, as long as Guhan willed it, it would be a piece of cake for him to raise a 1,000-meter wave in the ocean. At the same time, the Xianyuan water manipulation flag could store 1/10 of the ocean's water. If Guhan didn't like any place, he only needed to release all the seawater in the Xianyuan water manipulation flag, and it would be an apocalyptic scene in an instant. Finally, the North Sea Dragon King Ao Shun presented the Sea-Calming Divine Pearl. Legend had it that the Sea-Calming Divine Pillar and the Sea-Calming Divine Pillar were one. They both had the power to stabilize the entire ocean. It was a treasure that the Great used to control floods. Later on, it fell into the hands of the West Sea Dragon King. The Sea-Calming Divine Pearl and the Mystic Essence Water Control Flag could be said to be polar opposite. The Mystic Essence Water Control Flag could control all the water veins in the world, but the Sea-Calming Divine Pearl could stop all the water veins in the world. As long as the Sea-Calming Divine Pearl was placed at the bottom of the sea, the Mystic Essence Water Control Flag would not be able to move a single drop of seawater. All in all, these were 4 extremely powerful connate spiritual treasures. As long as these 4 connate spiritual treasures were in his hands, the 4 Seas Dragon Clan would not be a problem. Therefore, when all 4 connate spiritual treasures were in Guhan's hands, the people present only felt a little jealous, and they did not have any greed for them. During the 1,000 years of battle with Yuan Ko, human beings had long learned that only Yuan Ko could use the connate spiritual treasures, and in the hands of a human, they were no different from an ordinary bottle. Therefore, the guests present were simply jealous that Guhan could win the loyalty of the 4 Seas Dragon Clan, and they did not have any desire for the Khanate spiritual treasures. But Ing Zheng was completely different. When he saw the Khanate spiritual treasures, he almost drooled, and the greed in his heart burned to the extreme. These 4 Khanate spiritual treasures were indeed useless to ordinary human beings, but for Wu people, they were treasures that he could use perfectly. Therefore, Ing Zheng could not hold back his desire. It was as if he was ready to soar into the sky in the next second and snatch the 4 Khanate spiritual treasures away. But in the end, Ing Zheng did not have the courage to do so. Not to mention the 2 killing intents he had sensed just now, Ing Zheng did not think he had the slightest chance of winning against the dragon kings of the 4 seas in front of him. If it were on land, it would be a different story. But in the ocean, he was no match for the dragon kings of the 4 seas. Therefore, in the end, Ing Zheng could only suppress his greed and watch Gohan put the 4 treasures into his pocket. At the same time, when Gohan put all 4 Khanate spiritual treasures into his dimensional pocket, he nodded in his heart and let down most of his guard against the dragon kings of the 4 seas. Although the immortal exterminating sword could guarantee that the dragon kings of the 4 seas would follow him sincerely and would never betray Gohan, Gohan still felt a little uneasy. However, Gohan was still a little apprehensive in his heart. If the dragon kings of the 4 seas were to play spies with him, it would be troublesome. Therefore, Gohan took the initiative to ask the dragon kings of the 4 seas to hand over his 4 Khanate spiritual treasures. When the immortal exterminating sword told him with absolute certainty that it was indeed a genuine Khanate spiritual treasure, Gohan breathed a long sigh of relief. At that time, even if the dragon kings of the 4 seas had the intention to rebel, as long as they lost the 4 Khanate spiritual treasures, he could easily suppress them. After handing over their Khanate spiritual treasures, the dragon kings of the 4 seas obviously had a bitter expression on their faces, but at the same time, they also breathed a long sigh of relief. This meant that they had reached an agreement with the 4 immortal killing swords, and now they had a chance to fight for their future instead of waiting for death in sorrow. Mei Yun, today is an important day for me. Don't stay in the backstage. Come to the front and share this glory, Gohan said to Wen Meiyun, who was next to him. Wen Meiyun nodded happily and trotted back to the backstage. After a while, she pulled Long Xiaoya, Lu Yin and Lu Anna to the front stage from the backstage. Long Xiaoya was extremely excited. At the same time, she looked at Gohan and the 8 sword maidens sitting beside Gohan with envy. She imagined that one day she could sit beside Gohan openly like these sword maidens, become his wife, and accept everyone's worship and admiration. Lu Yin's emotions were a little off. He seemed very agitated. Even on such an important occasion, his hands kept making all kinds of small movements, and his legs trembled even more violently. Little Yin, what's wrong? Lu Shihua walked over nervously. She felt that her brother's condition was much worse than when she left. There seemed to be an uncontrollable beast in her brother's body. But when Lu Shihua pressed her hand on Lu Yin's head, Lu Yin calmed down. All the agitation disappeared, as if she had taken a tranquilizer. Lu Anna had a silly smile on her face from beginning to end. She looked at Gu Hanshao in a silly way, and also at the dense crowd in front of her in a silly way. As a result, one of them immediately jumped out of his chair with disbelief written all over his face. Anna! Is that you? Why are you here? I finally found you. The pirate sword immortal suddenly stood up from the chair. Less than 100 meters away, the pirate sword immortal directly opened the void door. In just 0.5 seconds, he passed through the void door and appeared beside Lu Anna, holding her in his arms. Anna, I finally found you. I finally found you. The pirate sword immortal was such a strong swordsman, but there were tears rolling down from the corners of his eyes. Because of the sudden action of the pirate sword immortal, Gohan's enthronement ceremony was once again interrupted. All the eyes on the pirate sword immortal were focused on him. Looking at the pirate sword immortal's excited expression, It was obvious that the relationship between Lu Anna and him was not ordinary. But Lu Anna appeared with Gohan's woman. Maybe she had an affair with Gohan. Thinking of this, the people present couldn't help imagining a tragic love triangle. P.S. About the character Lu Anna, at the beginning of her appearance, she planned to join Gohan's harem and become Gohan's backer after Lu Lei's death. But because of the author's lack of control, Lu Anna was gradually marginalized and couldn't find a chance to appear. If she forced herself to join Gohan's harem, it would be very stupid and deliberate. So, just like Mingwei at that time, let Lu Anna be free and give her a man who really loves her. But this is only a matter of the harem. There is a very important foreshadowing behind Lu Anna, so this character is not a useless character, and will play a very important role in the future. Pirate, what are you talking about? The next second, Long Jiandi also stood up from his dragon throne and quickly appeared beside Lu Anna using the void door. He asked excitedly, "You said she is Anna?" "Yes, your majesty." The pirate sword immortal wiped his excited tears and said, "Because of the Qianji sword, Anna can change her appearance at will, so she never shows her true face. In the whole world, only I know what the real Anna looks like. There's no mistake. She is Anna, my explosive flame sword immortal." Clatter! As soon as the name, explosive flame sword immortal, came out of her mouth, the entire crowd burst into an uproar. This seemingly deranged woman was actually the explosive flame sword immortal who had been missing for over 3 years, and who was almost confirmed to be dead by the Sword Commission. "What are you talking about? It's so funny." Perhaps the only heartless person present was this explosive flame sword immortal. Chapter 1261. Your Majesty, I hope you can explain why our explosive flame sword immortal became your maid? Long Jiandi asked Gohan with a serious and dissatisfied face. "Anna is not my maid." Gohan shook his head. "When I found her in Yuzhong City, she had already become like this. In the past few years, I have always treated her as a family member and have not done anything beyond the rules. Your Majesty Long can rest assured." "Thank you." Whether what Gohan said was true or not, since Gohan had said so, Long Jiandi could not accuse Gohan of anything until he found concrete evidence. On the contrary, Gohan asked curiously, "I heard that the name of the explosive flame sword immortal was Brittany Roberts. How did it become Anna?" "Anna is her nickname. Only a few of her closest friends know about it." The pirate sword immortal took the initiative to explain, and then asked eagerly, "Your Majesty, please tell me in detail. Where are you? And how did you find Anna?" "In fact, I did not find Anna, but my sword maiden, Qinpin." Gohan called Qinpin and Doyu over and asked them to describe in detail the process of finding Anna. After listening to him, Long Jiandi and the pirate sword immortal fell into deep thought. It took them a long time to recover. After hesitating for a while, the pirate sword immortal said to Gohan, "Your Majesty, I have a presumptuous request. I don't know if your Majesty can agree to it." "Tell me about it," Gohan said. "I have a few questions to ask the Dragon Kings of the Four Seas. I hope your Majesty can let the Dragon Kings of the Four Seas answer my questions truthfully without any concealment." The pirate sword immortal looked at Gohan and said, "It was not difficult to ask questions. The difficulty was that the Dragon Kings of the Four Seas might not answer the pirate sword immortal's questions honestly. As long as the Dragon Kings hid anything, it would be a big problem. Therefore, they had to ask Gohan, the Ocean Emperor, to give the order, using his status as the Ocean Emperor to order the Four Sea Dragon Kings not to lie. Only then would the Four Sea Dragon Kings be able to answer accurately. Does the pirate sword immortal want to ask about Anna? Gohan guessed what the pirate sword immortal wanted to ask. However, Gohan did not intend to let the pirate sword immortal fulfill his wish so easily. Instead, he asked, "Your Majesty Pirate Sword Immortal, Even if Anna is really the explosive flame sword immortal, she has lived in our family for more than 3 years and has a close relationship with my family. I think I am also qualified to ask about the truth of the matter. I hope that the pirate sword immortal can tell me about Anna. I am willing to find out the truth with the pirate sword immortal. Guhan looked into the pirate sword immortal's eyes and said, "This." The pirate sword immortal looked at Guhan and then at Long Shurjendi. His face showed an incomparably conflicted expression, but in the end, he could only answer honestly. "Anna is my adopted daughter, the daughter of a good brother. My good brother died in the hands of Yuenko in order to save me, so I swore to raise Anna to adulthood. I just didn't expect Anna to be so talented. She's so much stronger than me. I'm 20 years older than Anna, but 5 years after I became an immortal sword-tier sword wielder, Anna also became an immortal sword-tier sword wielder. When Anna was a child, she was ostracized by others, so she has a certain psychological barrier. She is unwilling to show her real face and name to others, so she has a fake appearance and a fake name. Except for me and Long Shurjendi, as well as a few people in the sword committee, no one else knows about this. Later, I saw that Anna had grown up and become an immortal sword bearer, and had the power to protect herself. So I went to pursue my dream and travel the 4 seas. But I didn't expect that when I came back one day, His Majesty Long Shur told me that Anna had disappeared. At this point, the pirate sword immortal looked at Long Shurjendi with some anger. Cough, cough. Long Shurjendi coughed dryly and said, "In fact, Anna is also my adopted daughter. After all, I, the pirate sword immortal and Anna's father were all friends from the same sword-bearer squad." Later, the pirate sword immortal toured the 4 seas, and Anna was responsible for doing some things for me. One day, I sensed the birth of a prince-grade dimensional crystal stone in Yuzhong City, so I asked Anna to go to your Yuzhong City for me and buy that prince-grade dimensional crystal stone. When Long Shurjendi said this, Guhan couldn't help but curl his lips and recall what happened 3 years ago. Unexpectedly, that prince-grade dimensional crystal stone not only attracted the attention of Yanjing City, but also attracted the attention of the distant London City. Moreover, Long Shurjendi and Hout Yanjendi's reaction was the same. They both sent immortal sword bearers. As for Long Shurjendi's purchase, it was obviously a fart. How could such a thing be purchased? Obviously, this Long Shurjendi and Hout Yanjendi had the same idea. They wanted to forcibly get that prince-grade dimensional crystal stone from his hands. If he was tactful, then it would not be impossible to take out a few 100 million yuan. If he was not tactful, then it would probably be a shameless robbery. He still remembered that Wuzhang Shifang got the prince-grade dimensional crystal stone from Guhan's hands through the promise of accepting Guhan as a disciple, but later, Wuzhang Shifang intentionally or unintentionally refused this promise. After all, at that time, Guhan was just a sword-bearer with low innate sword essence, and did not seem to have any training value. But now, Wuzhang Shifang's intestines were probably green with regret. If Wuzhang Shifang had accepted Guhan as a disciple, then how glorious would Wuzhang Shifang be now? At the very least, he wouldn't even have the face to appear at this coronation ceremony. Long Shurjendi continued. Later, when Anna was halfway there, she heard the news of Yuzhong City being attacked by Yuan Ko, so I asked Anna to help Yuzhong City get through this big attack as a representative of London City. As a result, I didn't expect that Anna would never return, and I never heard any news of her again. According to the last time we contacted Anna, the location of Anna's accident should be in an area along the coast of Minnan Province. As for whether it happened in the sea or on land, the pirate sword immortal and I couldn't find out. After Long Shurjendi finished speaking, the pirate sword immortal immediately said, "Since I learned about Anna's disappearance, I searched the entire coast of Minnan Province, and as a result, I really found something. With that, the pirate sword immortal took out some fragments from his dimensional pocket. When Gohan took a closer look, he saw that these fragments were all fragments of the Sword Lady. Gohan, there are fragments of the innate Sword Lady. After Qingpin, who was in Gohan's arms, saw these fragments, he immediately said to Gohan in surprise, "Yes, these fragments do contain fragments of the innate Sword Lady, fragments of Anna's famed sword-grade Sword Lady Thousand Mechanics sword. In fact, these fragments contain fragments of all the Sword Ladies from the ancient sword grade to the spiritual sword grade. Only the fragments of the immortal sword grade have not been found." The pirate sword immortal said with a sad face, "At that time, I knew that Anna must have been attacked by the powerful Yuan Ko, and it was a Yuan Ko whose strength far exceeded Anna's, at least a flood-grade Yuan Ko. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for Anna to not even have time to escape, and most of the Sword Ladies were shattered. When I found all this, my heart was already dead, because I felt that Anna had absolutely no chance of surviving, and was living in the depths of suffering." A few drops of tears rolled down the pirate sword immortal's old face, and then he instantly became pleasantly surprised. "I really didn't expect to see Anna here. I really didn't expect that my Anna was actually still alive." The pirate sword immortal hugged the crazy Anna tightly in his arms, and lovingly stroked Anna's head. Anna shook her head with some dissatisfaction, and muttered, "Strangled me to death, strangled me to death. Your Majesty, you also saw that Anna has actually become like this now. My heart is filled with endless anger." The pirate sword immortal suddenly raised his head, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. "Your Majesty, the place where Anna met with an accident was by the seaside. The Four Seas Dragon Clan controls the entire sea, so they must know everything about the sea like the back of their hand. So I want to ask the Four Sea Dragon Kings, who on earth hurt my Anna?" In that case, when the pirate sword immortal said this, Gohan was slightly hesitant. In the face of the pirate sword immortal's question, the Four Sea Dragon King's answers could not escape from two possibilities. Either Lu Anna was hurt by the Four Seas Dragon Clan, or it had nothing to do with the Four Seas Dragon Clan. If it had nothing to do with the true Dragon Clan, then it would be fine. But if it was really related to the true Dragon Clan, or even the Four Sea Dragon Kings directly did it, then Gohan's situation would become very awkward. Even a blind person could hear how deep the relationship between the pirate sword immortal and Lu Anna was. The pirate sword immortal would inevitably avenge Lu Anna regardless of anything. In this way, Gohan would be caught in the middle. It was not good for Gohan to help humans, and it was even more impossible for him to help the Four Sea Dragon Kings. In any case, the Sea Emperor throne under Gohan's buttocks began to shake. Therefore, in the face of the pirate sword immortal's vengeful eyes, Gohan must carefully weigh in his heart what kind of decision he should make. "Four Dragon Kings, please come here. I have something to discuss with you." Gohan's hesitation did not last too long. In any case, the truth of the matter must be clarified. If it was really the Four Sea Dragon Kings who hurt Lu Anna, then Gohan could mediate and let the Four Sea Dragon Kings compensate Lu Anna. After all, Lu Anna's life was not in danger. If the pirate sword immortal still wanted to retaliate, then it would be unreasonable. "Yes, Your Majesty." The Four Sea Dragon Kings immediately appeared in front of Gohan. "Four Dragon Kings, please take a look and see if you know this lady." Gohan ignored the pirate sword immortal's objection and forcibly pulled Lu Anna out of the pirate sword immortal's arms to let the Four Sea Dragon Kings see her clearly. When the Four Sea Dragon Kings saw Lu Anna's face, they recognized her at the same time, and an unusual expression appeared on their faces. Although the Sea Dragon King restrained himself very quickly, this expression was still seen by the pirate sword immortal first. "Wow! So it was you who hurt my Anna!" The pirate sword immortal roared angrily. The expressions of the Four Sea Dragon Kings could at least explain one thing, and that was that they had seen Lu Anna before, and it was Lu Anna who had revealed her true face. In this way, the suspicion of the 4 sea dragon kings became extremely huge. Please calm down, Senior Pirate. I'm here, and everything can be explained clearly. Guhan pressed the pirate sword immortal's hand. The pirate sword immortal struggled a few times, but found that he could not break free from Guhan's hand. From the looks of it, the 4 dragon kings have indeed seen this lady. In that case, please tell us the truth. What exactly happened back then? Guhan asked the 4 dragon kings as he held down the pirate sword immortal. This. The expressions of the 4 sea dragon kings became more hesitant, as if there was something important hidden in it. Guhan sighed and said, "Please don't hide anything from me and tell me the truth. I can assure the 4 dragon kings that I will let bygones be bygones. You just need to tell me the truth." Guhan, what are you talking about? If Anna was really hurt by these 4 stinky dragons, I will kill them to avenge Anna even if I have to risk my life. The pirate sword immortal roared angrily when he heard Guhan say that he would let bygones be bygones. No. The 4 sea dragon kings waved their hands when they heard the pirate sword immortal say that he would let bygones be bygones. Pirate sword immortal, I'm afraid you've misunderstood. This lady's injury has nothing to do with the 4 sea dragon clan. On the contrary, the 4 sea dragon clan suffered a lot at the hands of this lady. The reason why I didn't want to say it just now was because I felt ashamed. It doesn't matter. Just tell us what happened. This is no longer a matter of pride. The pirate sword immortal might not be a match for the 4 dragon kings, but if he were to hide in the dark and attack the descendants of the 4 dragon kings, I'm afraid things wouldn't be fun. I believe the 4 dragon kings wouldn't want to see that either. Guhan said calmly. Sigh. What else could the 4 sea dragon kings say after hearing what Guhan said? It was indeed as Guhan had said. If the pirate sword immortal attacked their descendants, they really couldn't do anything to him. It's like this. After hesitating for a while, the Dragon King of the East Sea Ao Guang said helplessly, "It was a day 3 years ago. He was going to marry the 17th princess of the merfolk race according to the arranged marriage." At this point, Ao Guang's face couldn't help but turn red. Who was Ao Guang? He was an old dragon who had lived for millions of years. Even in this world, he had lived for 1,000 years. As for the 17th princess of the merfolk clan, if Guhan's information was correct, she was less than 100 years old. Ao Guang, this old dragon, actually played the game of a pear blossom over a begonia and married the 17th princess of the merfolk clan. It was true that dragons were lustful by nature. But then again, whether it was the merfolk clan or the true dragon clan, they were all Yuan Ko. The matters between Yuan Ko had nothing to do with humans. How could Lu Anna get involved in this? Ao Guang continued, "It was a day of celebration. My 4 brothers and I went to the Merfolk Island to welcome the bride. On the way back, we met a human swordsman who was flying in the sky. I didn't know her, but my 3rd brother, Ao Run, recognized her. She was the explosive flame sword immortal of London City." "Yes." Xiaolong recognized her. Ao Run nodded repeatedly. "So, you took the opportunity to make a move on Anna, right?" The pirate sword immortal said angrily. "Lord Pirate, please remain calm and let the 4 dragon kings finish their words." Guhan's tone was filled with power. Even the pirate sword immortal couldn't help but feel a chill and shut his mouth. "Lord Pirate, you are wrong. At that time, we were strictly maintaining our neutrality with you humans. Plus, it was a day of celebration. How could we be willing to fight? On the contrary, I took the initiative to invite the explosive flame sword immortal to drink a cup of wine." Ao Guang said with a bitter smile. "What happened after that?" "After that, the explosive flame sword immortal really came to my wedding." Ao Guang's smile became even more bitter. Chapter 1262. That's impossible. Hearing Ao Guang say that Explosive Flame Sword Immortal had agreed to attend his wedding, Long Shi Jiandi's face changed instantly. "What's wrong? Is there a problem?" Gohan asked. "I may not know other people, but I know Anna very well. Anna's mother was killed by a true dragon. Although Anna restrained herself very much and never provoked the true Dragon Clan for her mother, Anna's hatred for the true Dragon Clan was real. However, Anna's disgust for the true Dragon Clan was real. She would always avoid the true Dragon Clan whenever she saw them, let alone attend their wedding banquet. That's impossible," Long Shi Jiandi said with a frown. "Yes, Anna really hates the true Dragon Clan. It's impossible for her to attend your wedding," the Pirate Sword Immortal also said. "That's strange. In fact, Xiaolong said it casually, but Explosive Flame Sword Immortal agreed without any hesitation. Xiaolong was also very surprised. "But since I've said it, I can't go back on my word. So, I took Explosive Flame Sword Immortal back to the East Sea Dragon Palace." What happened next? What happened next? The Dragon Lion Sword Emperor and the Pirate Sword Immortal looked very serious, but in the ears of the poor, it became an extremely interesting story, and he asked excitedly. "Pay attention." Gohan knocked on Qingpin's head. Qingpin was so angry that he stuck out his tongue and licked Gohan's face. "Ahem." Ao Guang coughed and said, "Later, Explosive Flame Sword Immortal came to the East Sea Dragon Palace with us. She also attended the wedding and said a few congratulatory words. It seemed very normal, so we let go of our suspicions and didn't think much about it. However, the problem occurred after we had let go of our suspicions, before the Explosive Flame Sword Immortal had even finished her wedding banquet. She said that she had a stomachache and had to find a place to relieve herself. Since we were brothers, we didn't bother with her and continued to drink by ourselves. By the time I was about to perform the ritual of intercourse with my new wife. At this point, only embarrassment and anger remained on Ao Guang's face. "What happened?" the Pirate Sword Immortal urged. Sigh. "Apologies. This matter, little dragon, I can't say it." "Better, number 3, you say it." Ao Guang sighed and pulled Ao Run out. "Big brother." "Then I'll say it for you." Ao Run confirmed with Ao Guang again, and after getting his approval, he said helplessly, "To tell you the truth, when my big brother entered the bridal room, he discovered that the Explosive Flame Sword Immortal was actually lying on the same bed as his new wife. The two of them were even hugging each other. My big brother was so mad that he took out the glass jade bottle and wanted to capture this adulterous couple." When Ao Run's words left his mouth, everyone in the surroundings was shocked. This was a shocking turn of events. If the truth was as Ao Run said, that Explosive Flame Sword Immortal and Ao Guang's woman had an indecent relationship, then no matter how you looked at it, Explosive Flame Sword Immortal was at fault. Even if Ao Guang really killed Explosive Flame Sword Immortal, London wouldn't even have the right to seek revenge. Nonsense. You are talking pure nonsense. Anna is clearly a woman. How could she have had an affair with the 17th princess of the merfolk race? You are talking nonsense. The Pirate Sword Immortal said angrily. He was just short of pointing at Ao Run's nose and scolding him. "Don't be so angry, Lord Pirate. I remember that Lord Pirate has a good relationship with the merfolk race. You lived on Merfolk Island for a while. Lord Pirate should know that the merfolk race doesn't have gender. All the merfolk are hermaphrodites. They have female characteristics and male characteristics." Ao Run's words made everyone, except the Pirate Sword Immortal, open their mouths in shock. All along, all humans thought that the merfolk race was female. They didn't know that the merfolk race was hermaphrodites. The Pirate Sword Immortal paused. Seeing the curious gazes of the people around him, he nodded helplessly. This is indeed the case. The merfolk race is very taboo about this. They don't want others to reveal this information, so I didn't tell you. But the merfolk race is born with a love for beauty. After they are born, they will take the initiative to maintain their female form. After they reach adulthood, they will confirm their gender as female. At that time, the merfolk race will no longer be hermaphrodites, but real women. The Pirate Sword Immortal argued. Looks like Lord Pirate really knows the merfolk race very well. You even know such a secret. Run nodded. But there are always exceptions. Although 90% of the merfolk race wish to confirm their gender as female after they reach adulthood, there are still 10% who wish to become male. But there are still 10% of mermaids who want to become men, and this 17th princess is this one. Although Run didn't continue, his meaning was very clear. This 17th princess obviously chose to become a male after reaching adulthood. But if this was the case, then it was very, very interesting. With the status of the true dragon race in the sea, the merfolk race obviously didn't dare to deceive Ao Guang and marry a male merfolk to Ao Guang. However, Ao Guang married the 17th princess in such a grand manner. There was only one explanation, and that was that our old dragon king Ao Guang knew that the 17th princess was a man. Even though he knew that the 17th princess was a man, he still married her. Well, no wonder Ao Guang didn't even have the courage to continue speaking. The crux of the emotional problem appeared here. Even if Ao Guang's skin was thick, he didn't dare to confess the fact that he was a glass. The dignified dragon king of the East Sea, a generation of true dragon, actually had such a hobby. If this was set out, Ao Guang's image would be completely destroyed. Ao Run continued. The merfolk race is born beautiful, and after the 17th princess turned into a man, she was even more beautiful. Even those female merfolk were overshadowed in front of the 17th princess. It is normal for my elder brother to fall in love with the 17th princess. Ao Run's words sounded like he was trying to clear Ao Guang's name, but it felt like the more he tried to clear Ao Guang's name, the darker it became. Even a true dragon like my big brother couldn't help but fall in love with the 17th princess. A woman like Explosive Flame Sword Immortal was naturally no exception. It's normal for her to be seduced by her beauty. Ao Run's words made the Pirate Sword Immortal glare angrily, but the Pirate Sword Immortal was suppressed by Gohan the whole time, so he could only let Ao Run continue. My big brother was furious, so he naturally didn't hold back and directly used the Khanate spiritual treasure. But that Explosive Flame Sword Immortal was already prepared. The moment my big brother appeared, she entered the void door that was already opened and escaped the Dragon Palace before the Khanate spiritual treasure was activated. Later, we used a lot of power to search for Explosive Flame Sword Immortal, but we couldn't find any trace of her. Later, we heard that the Pirate Sword Immortal had come to the East Sea and was looking for trouble with the true dragon race. To avoid further conflict with the humans, my big brother withdrew his subordinate. That's the whole story. Although my big brother did use the Khanate spiritual treasure, he didn't hurt Explosive Flame Sword Immortal at all. Instead, it was Explosive Flame Sword Immortal who slept with our sister-in-law. Since this matter has been exposed, then we, the Dragon Kings of the Four Seas, have no more face. Now that this Explosive Flame Sword Immortal is here, I hope that the Pirate Sword Immortal will hand her over to us. As the saying goes, a cuckold is unforgivable. We won't really kill Explosive Flame Sword Immortal, but she has to kneel in front of my big brother and apologize. Then, she will be locked up in the Aquamarine Sea Dungeon of the East Sea Dragon Palace for 3 years. Only then can this matter be resolved. Ao Run said calmly, but there was no room for refusal. You! The Pirate Sword Immortal was so angry that he couldn't speak. Originally, he was the one denouncing the Dragon Tribe of the Four Seas, but now it was the Dragon Tribe of the Four Seas denouncing Luana. They wanted Luana to kneel, apologize, and be locked up for 3 years. You're slandering me. You're spouting nonsense. The Pirate Sword Immortal had nothing else to say. Sorry, we, the true dragon race, never lie. Ao Guang snorted coldly. Then, he reached into his robe and took out a human-made projector. This is what you humans taught us. You said that important occasions should be recorded. I didn't expect it to work now. The whole process is in the video. You can take a look and see if I'm telling the truth. White smoke came out of Ao Guang's nose. These things are made by you humans. We, the true dragon race, can't forge them even if we want to. Whether this video is real or not, you'll know when you see it. Then, the projector projected a video, which recorded the whole process of Ao Guang's marriage. Even the scene of Ao Guang entering the bridal chamber was in the video. When everyone saw Lu Anna lying naked on the bed with a beautiful and pure man, Gohan immediately covered the eyes of Qing Pin and Du. These were scenes that were not suitable for children. With the release of this video, our comrade Ao Guang became a green Ao Guang. As Ao Guang said, it was impossible for the dragon race to have the technology of human beings, and it was impossible for them to forge a fake video that was difficult for humans to forge. The fact was irrefutable. Lu Anna had really made Comrade Ao Guang a cuckold, although the way she did it was a little special and funny. Impossible. Anna is not such a person. How could she be with Yuan Ko? The pirate sword immortal said with a dull look. Long Shi Jiandi's reaction was not much better than the pirate sword immortal. Well, now that the truth is clear, leave this explosive flame sword immortal to me. After Ao Guang finished speaking, he reached out to grab the confused Lu Anna. How dare you? The pirate sword immortal's eyes widened. Long Shi Jiendi and he drew their swords at the same time. Seeing the reaction of the pirate sword immortal and Long Shi Jiendi, the dragon kings of the four seas immediately stood together. 4 streams of dragon chi gathered up and down, and it seemed that a big battle was about to break out at this coronation ceremony. All of you, stop right now. Do you still put me in your eyes? At this critical moment, Gohan naturally had to stand up. He stood in the middle, and the dragon kings of the four seas were the first to cower and retracted their dragon chi. The pirate sword immortal also retracted his sword under the signal of Long Shi Jiendi. Let me say something fair about this matter. Gohan sighed. Now, only he could deal with this matter. First of all, this video should not be fake, and what the dragon kings of the four seas said is also true. Therefore, the dragon kings of the four seas are not wrong. What, Gohan, now that you have become His Majesty the Sea Emperor, do you think that you are not of the human race, but of the sea race? Have you completely moved your butt to the side of the sea race? Hearing Gohan's judgment, the pirate sword immortal said with extreme dissatisfaction. Shut up! Someone immediately shouted at the pirate sword immortal. However, this person was not Gohan, but Long Shi Jiendi, who was standing next to him. It doesn't matter. The pirate sword immortal was just worried and confused. It's understandable. Gohan waved his hand. But there is one thing I hope you can remember. Even if I, Gohan, sit in the position of Sea Emperor, I will always be of the human race. I will never be of the sea race. In the future, pirate sword immortal, you must not say such words again. Otherwise, don't blame me for not considering our previous friendship. I was just speaking the truth. The dragon kings of the four seas did not lie, and the evidence is absolutely true. Gohan sighed. But I didn't say that Lu Anna was wrong. On the contrary, I think it's very strange. I have also paid attention to the explosive flame sword immortal before. I know that she is a very hot-tempered sword-bearer, but she hates Yuan Ko very much. I don't believe that such a sword-bearer would fall in love with a beautiful merman in less than a few hours. I'm afraid there is a big secret in this. I don't know if you have noticed this. Look carefully at the clothes that explosive flame sword immortal was wearing when she first appeared, and her scabbard. Gohan waved his hand, and the video that had been played was displayed again. It directly returned to the scene where Lu Anna appeared for the first time. Thanks to the ultra-high quality of 4360p, Lu Anna's image was still very clear even after the video was magnified several times. Everyone could clearly see Lu Anna's dress through the video. Here, here, and here. Guhan pointed at several places on Lu Anna's body. If you look carefully, you will find that there are traces of fighting here, and there are faint bloodstains. Pay attention to the expression of the explosive flame sword immortal. If you look carefully, you will find that her expression is very strange. It's an expression of surprise and fear, or rather, it's an expression of being saved. Guhan said in a heavy tone. Just now, His Majesty Dragonshire said that because explosive flame Jiandi's mother was killed by the True Dragon Clan, she hates the True Dragon Clan very much. Under normal circumstances, the explosive flame sword immortal would never show such an expression of being saved at the first sight of the True Dragon Clan. Coupled with the wounds on her clothes, there is only one explanation. Before she met the True Dragon Clan, the explosive flame sword immortal had already fought with an unknown opponent. And in this battle, the explosive flame sword immortal was at a disadvantage. She escaped from the battle, so maybe her enemy is chasing her from behind. That's why when the explosive flame sword immortal saw the True Dragon Clan, which she originally hated so much, she showed an expression of being saved. Because the explosive flame sword immortal knew that the guy who was chasing her would never dare to appear in front of the True Dragon Clan, or rather, he didn't have the ability to defeat the True Dragon Clan. As long as he could sneak into the True Dragon Clan's team, the explosive flame sword immortal could be saved. This is also the reason why the explosive flame sword immortal accepted the Dragon King's invitation without hesitation and attended this wedding banquet that she would never have attended. It was just a video, but Guhan had analyzed so many important things in one breath. Everyone on the stage was filled with admiration for Guhan. It seems that His Majesty the Sea Emperor didn't obtain the position of Sea Emperor through strength alone. In terms of intelligence, His Majesty the Sea Emperor also crushed many people. Chapter 1263. Then how do you explain this woman's behavior of cheating on my elder brother? Ao Run said with some dissatisfaction. If she really wanted to take refuge with the power of the Four Seas Dragon Clan, then she had no reason to seduce the 17th princess. Wasn't she courting death? Yes. Others nodded. If Lu Anna really wanted to enter the Dragon Palace to take refuge, then even if she liked the 17th princess, it was impossible for her to seduce her into bed. Wasn't it obvious that she was trying to kill herself? Yes, this is indeed a very critical problem. In most cases, as long as the explosive flame sword immortal has a little brain, she would not do such a thing. Speaking of this, Guhan looked at Lu Anna, who was in a daze. But there is another possibility. She did it on purpose. She must have some other purpose. She must have the help of the 17th princess. Dragon King of the East Sea, where is the 17th princess now? Guhan seemed to have thought of something and immediately asked the Dragon King of the East Sea. He said he was too ashamed to stay in the Dragon Palace, and I didn't want to see him in the Dragon Palace anymore, so we broke off the engagement. A few days after that, he returned to Mermaid Island. Now he should still be on Mermaid Island. The Dragon King of the East Sea replied. That's right. If I'm right, the explosive flame sword immortal must have left some important things and clues in the hands of the Mermaid Princess. If we can find him and ask him face to face, maybe we can solve the mystery. Guhan said thoughtfully. I'll go now. As soon as Guhan's voice fell, the pirate sword immortal could not hold back anymore. Without saying anything, he directly carried Lu Anna in his arms and instantly opened the void door. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared into the void. What? She escaped just like that? This is too much. Seeing Lu Anna disappear, the Dragon King of the West Sea, Ao Run, suddenly said with dissatisfaction. Sorry, the 4 Dragon Kings also know that the pirate sword immortal is like this. Moreover, Anna has lived with him since childhood, and her relationship with him is equivalent to that of his own daughter. It's understandable that he would be so excited. Please don't take it to heart, Dragon Kings. Long Shurjindi forced a smile and spoke on behalf of the pirate sword immortal. Let's just let this matter rest. I have a feeling that there's a huge conspiracy behind the explosive flame sword immortal. This scheme might even affect the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. Guhan's face turned grave and he said to Ao Run, West Sea Dragon King, do you still remember what happened to Ao Guang? Your Majesty, are you talking about Ao Guang being ambushed by his friend? Ao Run froze for a moment. Speaking of which, I still have to thank your Majesty's elder sister. Otherwise, that unfilial son of mine would have already been skinned and his tendons pulled out. I'm afraid this isn't as simple as a sneak attack. I'm afraid there's a hidden force behind this, and they're plotting something. At this point, Guhan looked around at all the humans and members of the Dragon Clan and said solemnly, I'm afraid there are people from that force hiding among us. Not good. Guhan's expression suddenly changed, and he immediately said to Long Shurjindi, if there are really people hiding here, I'm afraid they already know about the explosive flame sword immortal. On the way to Mermaid Island, the pirate sword immortal will probably encounter great danger. East Sea Dragon King, this is your territory. I'll have to trouble you to check if there are any members of the Sea Clan or humans who left after the pirate sword immortal left. Guhan immediately said to the East Sea Dragon King. I understand. The East Sea Dragon King immediately walked down. That's impossible. With the strength of the pirate sword immortal, among the universe rank and Ian rank Yuan Ko, no one is a match for the pirate sword immortal. Long Shurjindi said with some hesitation. Don't forget, the explosive flame sword immortal is also a sword immortal rank sword wielder, but she ended up like this. 3 years have passed, and the opponent's strength may be even stronger. The pirate sword immortal also has the burden of the explosive flame sword immortal, so I'm afraid the situation is extremely dangerous. Reporting to your Majesty. After checking just now, there is indeed a dragon lady who left with an excuse, and now we can't find her. The East Sea Dragon King acted very quickly, and soon reported the matter. Then I'll rush over now. After listening to the East Sea Dragon King's words, Long Shurjindi also immediately understood the seriousness of the matter. He directly opened the Void Gate, and chased after the pirate sword immortal. During the whole process, Guhan did not take any measures to silence the sound, so the conversation between Long Shurjindi and the others was heard by the other guests. Everyone had a bad feeling in their hearts. They never thought that there would be such a shocking change behind the mysterious disappearance of the explosive flame sword immortal. Your Majesty, what should we do next? Seeing that the situation was somewhat embarrassing, the East Sea Dragon King asked Guhan with a wry smile. It doesn't matter, let's continue with the Ascension ceremony. Guhan waved his hand, and the Ascension ceremony, which had been interrupted several times, finally began again. Although there was only one step left before the whole ceremony was completed, that is, Guhan officially accepted the worship of the Four Seas Dragon Kings on behalf of the entire sea race, and finally went to the sea race's holy land, the Four Seas Spring, to hold the sea sacrifice ceremony. But the guests faintly felt that this last step would not be so easy to complete, and that there might be other troubles that would once again interrupt this even more troublesome Ascension ceremony. Dear audience friends, we are now taking the dragon carriage to the final destination of this Ascension ceremony, the Four Seas Spring. On the dragon carriage, the host continued to speak to the camera. According to legend, the Four Seas Spring is the origin of all seawater. In the sea, all seawater gushes out from the Four Seas Spring. This Four Seas Spring is equivalent to the Mother of the Sea, and is the holy land of all the sea race. Every generation of the Four Seas Dragon King has to worship the Four Seas Spring when they ascend to the throne, or else it would be unjustifiable. The ascension of the Sea King is naturally no exception. Okay, the dragon carriage is starting to slow down, which means that we have arrived at the Four Seas Spring. As the dragon carriage gradually slowed down, the host said excitedly, "Dear audience friends, we have finally arrived at the Four Seas Spring. I believe that the audience friends have already seen that this place is also full of air, an area where humans can move freely. But the amazing thing is that the air here is not a space formed by the water-repellent formation or the water-repellent pearl, but a space created by the power of the Four Seas Spring. Dear audience friends, what appears in front of the camera now is the Four Seas Spring. This is the first time in history that the Four Seas Spring has appeared in front of us ordinary people. Since ancient times, except for a few immortal sword-wielders and Gyendi, no one has ever seen the Four Seas Spring with their own eyes. This is the most precious information. We are so lucky to be able to live in this era. Oh my God! This is really amazing. It's so beautiful," the host said in a carefree manner. So this is the Four Seas Spring. When Gohan saw the Four Seas Spring for the first time, he was completely shocked by this amazing scene. Just like the Four Seas Spring's name suggested, it really was an eyeball, but an extremely large eyeball. The entire eyeball was as large as a small mountain, with a diameter of more than 10 kilometers. The scare of the eyeball could be seen with one's own eyes, and a steady stream of seawater flowed out of the eyeball. Sigh. Everyone wonders why tears are as salty as seawater. Actually, seawater is tears. Standing beside Gohan, the Dragon King of the East Sea sighed and said, "The sea that the merfolk rely on for survival is actually real tears. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I'm afraid I would not be able to accept this fact." Huh. That's disgusting. Hearing the Dragon King of the East Sea say this, Qingpin and Doyu's faces showed a look of disgust. In fact, all humans more or less had a look of disgust on their faces. The reason was simple: when you know that you are soaking in someone else's tears, anyone would feel disgusted. "Your Majesty, do you know whose eyeball this Four Seas Spring belongs to?" The Dragon King of the East Sea suddenly asked Gohan. "I don't know." Gohan shook his head. "Please enlighten me, Dragon King of the East Sea." Since ancient times, the true Dragon Clan has two theories. The Dragon King of the East Sea said faintly. One is that this Four Seas Spring is the eyeball left behind by Pangu, who created the world. Pangu? Gohan pondered for a moment. The legend of Pangu creating the world was too famous. Even after the great cultural destruction, this legend did not die with time and was still passed down. Didn't they say that Pangu's eyes turned into the sun and the moon? Why are they here? Gohan asked curiously. That's just a legend. After all, none of us saw Pangu creating the world with our own eyes. How can we know if the legend is true or false? The Dragon King of the East Sea shook his head. Moreover, the sun is so great. Compared to the sun, the moon is really small. It's hard to believe that it is formed by two identical eyeballs. Could it be that Pangu's eyeballs were born with one bigger and one smaller? That makes sense. Gohan nodded. What about the second theory? The second theory is a bit unreliable. The Dragon King of the East Sea's expression instantly became serious. The second theory is that this eyeball is the eyeball of a supreme existence. Supreme existence? How supreme? Gohan squinted his eyes and asked. Supreme and unparalleled. A supreme existence that can control the other 6 supreme existences. His will is the will of heaven, his decree is the decree of heaven, and his Tao is the Tao of heaven. He is an existence that absolutely cannot be mentioned. The Dragon King of the East Sea's expression was solemn and serious. Really? Gohan touched his nose thoughtfully. Isn't such a supreme existence only left with an eyeball now? From this, it can be seen that there has never been any real immortal supreme existence in this world. Your Majesty, you are right. The Dragon King of the East Sea said sincerely. Everything is ready. Those who should come are also here. Your Majesty, the Sea Emperor's sacrificial ceremony can begin. Then let's begin. Under the witness of the cameras, the 999 dragon ladies began to dance the ancient true dragon dance around the four seas spring. At the same time, the dragon kings of the four seas transformed into their true dragon forms and occupied the four corners of the four seas spring. It was truly a scene of coiling dragons suppressing the world. Apart from that, there were also hundreds of thousands of prawn soldiers and crab generals surrounding the entire area of the four seas spring. The entire formation was grand and majestic, allowing the human guests to truly feel the majesty of the Ocean Emperor. Under such majesty, Gohan wore a dragon robe and slowly approached the four seas spring with his sword lady. As long as Gohan completed the ceremony of 3 kowtows and 9 bows to the four seas spring, the entire coronation ceremony would be declared complete. Then, Gohan would become the first Sea Emperor in the history of the Sea Clan. First kowtow. Under the voice of Prime Minister Turtle, Gohan slowly knelt in front of the four seas spring and slowly kowtowed. As Gohan's head touched the ground, the entire ground began to shake violently, as if there was an underwater earthquake. What happened? Is it an earthquake? Everyone discussed in panic. The dragon kings of the four seas hovering in the sky were even more panicked than the humans. They all transformed back into their human forms and landed in front of Gohan. They said with panic on their faces, "Your Majesty, I'm afraid it's better not to hold this ceremony." What's wrong? Is there a problem? It's just an earthquake. Earthquakes happen all the time. It's not a big deal. Gohan looked displeased when he heard the dragon kings of the four seas. No, it's a big problem. The Dragon King of the East Sea said anxiously. This is not an ordinary place. This is a place suppressed by the four seas spring. Even if there is an earthquake in the entire sea, it's impossible for an earthquake to happen in the four seas spring. Ever since I became sensible, nothing ominous has ever happened in the four seas spring. This is just a coincidence. There's no place in the world that can't have an earthquake, Gohan said. Besides, what can we do even if it happens? Your Majesty, you're not from the sea, so you don't know that there's a legend in the Sea Clan. Legend has it that the four seas spring suppresses all things, but once the four seas spring trembles, a disaster that endangers the entire sea will be born. The Dragon King of the West Sea's face was filled with endless fear. Yes, Your Majesty, I hope that you can stop paying your respects until we figure out what's going on, the Dragon King of the North Sea said. Is there really such a saying? Hearing the Dragon Kings of the Four Seas say that, Gohan hesitated for a moment, then stood up and said, Forget it. This is just a ceremony. Since the Dragon Kings are afraid, then forget it. Let's leave this place as soon as possible. Gohan was not the kind of person who would be stubborn. The reason why he could become the Sea Emperor was that the Dragon Kings of the Four Seas were willing to support him. In other words, Gohan's position as the Sea Emperor was built on the Dragon Kings of the Four Seas, not on the Four Seas spring. Since the Dragon Kings of the Four Seas had clearly stated that they did not want Gohan to continue paying his respects, there was no need for Gohan to force him to pay his respects. This would instead leave a grudge between him and the Dragon Kings of the Four Seas. Anyway, Gohan's goal of establishing his dominance in front of the human race had been achieved. It did not matter whether this ceremony was held or not. Thank you for your understanding, Your Majesty, the Dragon Kings of the Four Seas said happily. They were afraid that Gohan would be stubborn. If that happened, they really would not be able to do anything to Gohan. Let's go. Gohan gestured to the sword ladies behind him and prepared to leave. Wait. At that moment, a person that Gohan did not expect suddenly blocked in front of Gohan. Chapter 1264. Ling, what do you mean by this? Gohan did not expect Liuan Ling to be the one standing in front of him. You can't leave just like that. Liuyan Ling stared at the four seas spring in front of her. You have to complete the ceremony. Little girl, what nonsense are you talking about? It's too dangerous here. The ceremony can't continue. Your Majesty, we have to leave this place. The four sea dragon kings tried to persuade Gohan anxiously. Gohan took a deep breath and said slowly, "Let's go." With that, Gohan prepared to leave with the dragon kings of the four seas, who looked as if they had been relieved of a heavy burden. You can't leave. When Liuyan Ling heard that, she placed her sword on Gohan's neck. You're using a weapon against me? Gohan's gaze turned cold as he looked at Liuyan Ling in disbelief. Are you trying to kill me? Liuyan Ling panicked and moved her sword away from Gohan's neck. She said in distress, "Believe me, I don't mean anything else. I'm doing this for your own good. You have to complete the final ceremony." Is that so? Gohan groaned and fell into a deep silence. This silence made Liuyan Ling feel like a year. After some time, Gohan raised his head and looked at Liuyan Ling. I'll ask you one thing. Is this what you want to do? Or is it what your grandfather asked you to do? Or is it what Kenzu left behind? This time, it was Liuyan Ling's turn to fall into silence. After a while, Liuyan Ling answered with difficulty, "It's Kenzu. It's Kenzu's will that made me do it." Then thank Kenzu for me. But I don't need it. After speaking, Gohan shook off Liuyan Ling's hand. Liuyan Ling stood there in a daze, looking at Gohan's back with lifeless eyes. The tears in her eyes rolled down uncontrollably. In the end, all the guests left, including the dragon ladies, prawn soldiers, and crab generals. Only Liuyan Ling was left standing there in a daze. After a long time, when Liuyan Ling's body was almost frozen, Liuyan Ling finally woke up from her daze. Bastard, why are you treating me like this? I'm clearly doing this for your own good. Why don't you believe me? Why is it so painful to like someone? Liuyan Ling said bitterly while wiping the tears from the corners of her eyes. If you like me, why didn't you say a word to me for more than 2 years? The voice that had haunted Liuyan Ling countless times rang in Liuyan Ling's ears again. Gohan. Liuyan Ling turned around in surprise and found that Gohan had appeared behind her without her knowing. You bastard! You're messing with me! Liuyan Ling's face was red. She bared her fangs and brandished her claws as if she wanted to beat Gohan up. However, Liuyan Ling was no match for Gohan. In just a moment, Gohan grabbed her wrist. Her whole body was restrained by Gohan, and she could not move. Let go of me! Let go of me! Liuyan Ling struggled helplessly. You're already an immortal sword-rank sword wielder. Why are you so weak that you can be easily restrained by me, a small spirit sword-rank sword wielder? Gohan scratched Liuyan Ling's nose. Humph! It's so sour. A faint voice sounded behind her. Liuyan Ling looked back and saw that all of Gohan's sword maidens had appeared together. So, why did you come back? Are you pitying me? After her emotions stabilized, Liuyan Ling said with dissatisfaction. It has nothing to do with pitying you. You don't need my pity. Gohan smiled. Didn't you notice that the Dragon Kings of the Four Seas didn't want me to stay? How could I not notice? Their unhappiness was written all over their faces. Liuyan Ling pouted. But they were lying to me. Gohan snorted. They can deceive others, but they can't deceive me. They said that continuing to worship will cause a disaster. In my opinion, they're not afraid of causing a disaster, but they're afraid that I'll get something that's important to them. Is that so? Liuyan Ling's tear-stained face trembled unwillingly. They can even give you the innate spiritual treasure. What else are they not willing to part with? Humph. Humans can't use the innate spiritual treasure. In the end, I still have to return it to them. The ceremony just now was just for show. The four of them and I both know this. As long as I still want to be the Ocean Emperor, they're not afraid that I won't return the innate spiritual treasure to them. But the Four Seas Spring Eye is different. There's probably a huge benefit in the Four Seas Spring Eye that I can use. That's why the Dragon Kings of the Four Seas wanted to trick me into leaving by saying that it was a disaster so that I wouldn't get their treasure. Gohan revealed everything that the Dragon Kings of the Four Seas were worried about. That's why you pretended to leave with everyone and sneak back behind the Dragon Kings of the Four Seas? Liu Ling glared at Gohan in extreme displeasure. You're still such a jerk. Those who follow you won't have a good time. They lied to me first. They can't blame me for lying to them. Gohan smiled indifferently and grabbed Liu Ling's hand. What are you doing? Liu Ling's face turned red as she struggled to break free from Gohan's grasp. I hope you can tell me the truth. What did you get from Kanzu? What treasures are hidden in the Four Seas Spring Eye? Gohan suddenly stuck his face in front of Liu Ling. Let go of me, and I'll tell you, Liu Ling said angrily. I'm not letting go. Gohan began to act shamelessly. Liu Ling was completely speechless. She sighed and could only continue. After I left you, Grandpa completely gave me all the authority in the family. I also read all the information in the family, including an extremely confidential notebook left behind by the ancestor. In that notebook, the ancestor recorded such a thing. He said that there are 4 seas Spring Eyes in the sea. They were left behind by the supreme god of ancient times. In other words, the 4 seas Spring Eye is not like the Yuan Ko, which came to our world from another dimension. Instead, it has been left in our world since ancient times. Truly belongs to humans and Earth. The ancestor said that he comprehended the 4 seas Spring Eye for 3 days. Then, on a whim, he kowtowed 3 times and bowed 9 times to the 4 seas Spring Eye. In the end, the 4 seas Spring Eye changed drastically and revealed the yin-yang lock. In the end, the ancestor said that in order to open the yin-yang lock and obtain the treasures inside, we must find the yin-yang key. However, the ancestor did not have the yin-yang key on him, so he could only leave helplessly. He left behind a notebook to tell us about this matter. Our Liunian clan tried hard to find the yin-yang key, but after 1,000 years we did not find anything. This matter has always been hidden in the ancestor's notebook. Liu Ling lowered her head and explained the entire matter without any pause. Yin-yang key. Since your Liunian clan did not find it, why did you stop me just now? Unless... Gohan paused for a moment, and his eyes lit up. Unless the yin-yang key has already been found, and it's on both of us. I don't have that thing on me. Otherwise, I would have taken the treasure away long ago. I wouldn't have reminded you. Liu Ling pouted and said hatefully. The key is on me? Gohan looked around. The image of a treasure that had fallen into Gohan's hands a long time ago flashed through Gohan's mind. He turned to look at Liu Ling in surprise. The key you speak of, is it the yin-yang twin swords? How did you know? Liu Ling was shocked. Wasn't this Gohan a little too amazing? He even guessed this. What's so difficult about it? Gohan shrugged. Putting aside the fact that the name yin-yang twin swords sounds very suspicious. Since you know that the yin-yang key is on me, it means that you've seen it with your own eyes. Think back to what we've experienced. The only thing that fits the yin-yang key's characteristics are the yin-yang twin swords. After all, you saw me put the yin-yang twin swords into my dimensional pocket in the Radiance amusement park. Gohan smiled. You're good. Liu Ling rolled her eyes and pouted. Since you've already guessed everything, hurry up and kowtow to the eye. Take out the treasure as soon as possible. Let me know what the treasure that even my ancestor failed to find back then is. There's no hurry. The most important thing now is to get rid of those who don't belong here. Gohan snorted and shouted, Brother Yaoguang, how long are you going to hide? Do you think that I, Gohan, am blind? Ah, I knew it. I can't hide it from you, Brother Gohan. As soon as Gohan finished speaking, a void door opened. Yaoguang walked out of the void door with a bitter smile. But I'm curious. I've already hidden the fluctuations of the void to the minimum. I don't think even Miss Ling could sense it. Brother Gohan, how did you find me? Who said I found you? Gohan's lips curled up. I just think that wherever there's a bone, there's a dog. After all, a dog's nose is the most sensitive. Gohan, don't be so shameless. Gohan's words made Ying furious. Ever since he returned to his identity as Qin Shi Huang, his temper was not as good as when he was Yaoguang. If he was still Yaoguang, he could let go of Gohan's sarcasm with a smile and pretend that he didn't hear it. But after returning to his identity as Qin Shi Huang for more than 2 years, he could no longer accept that someone dared to insult him so blatantly. What? Do you want to fight? Gohan had an eager look on his face. Ying, we haven't settled our scores yet. I'm just not in a position to fight you because of the promise I made back then. But if you provoke me, I don't mind sending you back to your Lord Zhu Wu. You! Ying was intimidated. He recalled what Liu Ling said to him in the Emperor Neptune Palace, and turned to seek Liu Ling's support. But when he did, he was even more furious. Liu Ling was leaning on Gohan like a little bird. How could Liu Ling help him to fight against Gohan? On the other hand, if he really fought, he would have to deal with both Gohan and Liu Ling. You win. No matter how angry Ying was, he would not do something so suicidal. In the end, he had no choice but to open the void gate and disappear into the void. I'm afraid he won't leave so easily. Liu Ling looked at the silent void. He's very capable and has a deep understanding of the void. If he hides in the void and doesn't move, neither of us will be able to find him. It's okay. I asked Sword Immortal Ling Su for this. Gohan smiled and took out a snow-white crystal cylinder from his dimensional pocket. It was engraved with all kinds of strange patterns. Void Seal Crystal Array? Liu Ling's eyes lit up when she saw this cylinder. That's right. Gohan laughed and said in a very heroic voice, I have a total of 8 Void Seal Crystal Array like this. I only need to bury one in the position of the Fushi 8 trigrams and activate it with a dimensional crystal. Then, the void within a radius of 100 miles will be sealed by me. Even a great Magus will not be able to escape from the void. With that, Gohan activated the Void Seal Crystal Array with a dimensional crystal and buried it under his feet. At the same time, he could feel the nearby void tremble slightly. Gohan, you're ruthless. Ying's exasperated voice came from the void. It seemed that this guy was indeed as Gohan and Liu Ling had feared. He was not willing to leave just like that. Instead, he was hiding in the void, trying to find an opportunity to launch a sneak attack. If he did not leave the area before the 8 array discs were completed, then Ying would be in big trouble. He would have to pay a huge price to escape from the sealed void. Hearing this, he did not dare to continue hiding here. He could only reluctantly escape from the area of the Void Seal Array. That annoying guy is finally gone. Although Gohan was 90% sure that Ying had really left, he still buried the remaining 7 Void Seal Crystal Array according to their positions, completely sealing the surrounding void. This way, the enemy could no longer launch a sneak attack from the void. In that case, even if Yuan Ko came, Gohan would not be afraid. Let's begin. Once again, Gohan brought Liu Ling to the place where he worshipped the 4 seas spring. Then, he knelt down and kowtowed again. Just like the previous scene, as Gohan kowtowed, the entire bottom of the sea began to tremble. But this time, Gohan did not stop. Instead, he kowtowed a second time without hesitation. As a result, the bottom of the sea trembled even more violently. As Gohan kowtowed 3 times and 9 times, the entire area of the 4 seas spring seemed to have entered an apocalyptic scene. Except for a small part where Gohan and Liu Ling were, the rest of the sea had sunk, leaving a bottomless trench that seemed to lead straight to the core of the earth. Legend has it that Zhetian Jiandi once traveled to the core of the earth. If I have the chance, I also want to tour the core, Gohan said with interest as he looked at the bottomless trench beside him. You'd better finish the last kowtow. Liu Ling rolled her eyes at Gohan. Gohan laughed and kowtowed for the 9th time. In the next second, the 4 Seas spring, which was still crying, instantly stopped crying. At the same time, part of the spring that was covered by the tears shrank inward, and finally, a small passage that could accommodate a few people was opened up. Chapter 1265. It seems that this is the yin-yang lock. Gohan, Liu Ling, and the sword ladies strolled into the small door of the 4 Seas spring and found that there was a Tai Chi pattern at the end of the path. In this Tai Chi pattern, there was a rectangular gap at the core of each of the 2 yin and yang fishes, which was just enough for a sword to be inserted. I didn't expect that the Tai Chi yin-yang twin swords from the Radiance Amusement Park would have such a function, Gohan said with a sigh. At the same time, he took out the 2 swords from his dimensional pocket. Because Gohan didn't want the Tai Chi yin-yang twin swords to become his spirit sword ladies. Therefore, after Gohan got these 2 swords, he had buried them deep in this dimensional pocket and didn't dare to take them out. He was afraid that because his hands touched these 2 swords, it would cause him to synchronize with the spirit sword level sword Maiden. Finally, until Guhan, Zhu Xian, and Extinguish Immortal Sword completed the synchronization with the Extinguish Immortal Sword, there would no longer be any possibility of synchronizing with other sword maidens at the spirit sword level. Only then did Guhan feel relieved to take out these 2 swords from his dimensional pocket. What's going on? Did I guess wrong? These 2 swords aren't the keys? When Gohan inserted the black and white Tai Chi yin-yang twin swords into the air of the yin and yang fishes, according to their colors, the yin-yang lock didn't have any reaction. It can't be. Liu Ling also frowned. It's written very clearly in the ancestors' notes that the Tai Chi yin-yang twin swords are the keys to the yin-yang lock. As long as the Tai Chi yin-yang twin swords are inserted, the door can be opened. Since the ancestor wrote it like this, it can't be wrong. But why doesn't the door open? Seeing that the door didn't have any reaction, Liu Ling also fell into helplessness and couldn't figure it out. Looking at the 2 Tai Chi yin-yang fishes in front of him, as well as the 2 black and white treasured swords stabbed into the yin-yang fishes, a thought flashed through Gohan's mind. He hesitantly muttered to himself, could it be? I'm going to do the opposite? Doing whatever he thought of, Gohan pulled out the 2 swords under Liu Ling's dazed gaze. Then, he switched the colors. The black yin sword was inserted into the white yang fish, and the white yang sword was inserted into the black yin fish. As expected, as the positions of the 2 swords changed, the yin-yang Tai Chi fish instantly came to life. Like 2 real fishes, they began to swim and chase each other. In the end, they swam faster and faster, like a speeding wheel. In the end, when the Taiji yin and yang fishes flew to their limits, the black and white colors could no longer be seen clearly. All that was left was a ray of light, and the door suddenly opened, revealing the world behind the door. This seems to be a place where someone lives in seclusion. When Gohan and Liu Ling entered the door, they were surprised to find that there was actually a very simple room behind the door. There was a stone table, a stone bed, and some incomprehensible patterns drawn on the surrounding rock walls. Gohan, look, there seems to be a book on the table. Liu Ling saw a thin book on the stone table at a glance. The group walked to the stone table and saw that there were a few extremely strange words written on the cover of the book. What the hell is written on it? Why can't I recognize a single one of them? Looking at the words on the cover of the book, Liu Ling scratched her head helplessly. As a descendant of the Lun Yen family, Liu Ling had been required to learn more than a dozen languages since she was young, including 3 ancient Chinese languages. Liu Ling thought that she was the person who knew the most languages among the younger generation, but when she saw the words written on the book, she could only helplessly say that she did not recognize a single one of them. This seems to be some kind of very ancient language. I have seen such words on some copper cauldrons unearthed in some ruins. Guhan vaguely saw some clues, but unfortunately, Guhan could only see the origin of these words. As for what was written in these words, Guhan really could not help. It seems like these words are extremely ancient. I'm afraid that not many people would be able to recognize them even before the apocalypse, let alone now. Fleeting Time Ling shook her head. She had no idea what to do with these words. Ancient words. Guhan touched his nose, then turned around and said to the Xianyuan sword that was floating behind him, Lady Xianyuan, I'm afraid that even the oldest words in the world cannot escape your eyes. You must know what is written in this book. Now you remember me. Didn't you want to throw me away before? The Xianyuan sword snorted coldly, looking like a tsundere. It was obvious that it wanted Guhan to coax it. How about this? I'll go find a whetstone for you to polish your skin. Guhan said with a smile. Forget it. Let me think. The Xianyuan sword hovered for a while. How about this? Help me find 10 Japanese action movies from before the apocalypse, and I will help you look at them. What the? Hearing the Xianyuan sword's conditions, the other swordwomen present almost fell to the ground. What the hell was this condition? Wasn't the Xianyuan sword's hobby a little too strange? Deal. Guhan answered without hesitation. Let me see. This is actually Tsongjia language. The Xianyuan sword circled the book and said in surprise. Tsongjia language? What language is this? Why haven't I heard of it before? Guhan asked curiously. Of course you haven't heard of it. This Tsongjia is the minister of that bastard Gongsun Xianyuan. It has been over 10,000 years. The first language used by you humans was created by Tsongjia. Before that, you humans had always used the language of the demon race and the Wu people. The Xianyuan sword inadvertently revealed a hidden history. You mean this book is written in the first language created by humans? Guhan frowned, looking at the paper of the book. This is already a very mature technology. Could it be that such paper was already created in the era of Yellow Emperor Xianyuan? That bastard Gongsun Xianyuan didn't have such an ability. Although he was a decent inventor, he didn't have the ability to invent paper. Ordinary things were recorded on stones, and important things were recorded on silk. Therefore, I dare to conclude that this book has nothing to do with Gongsun Xuanyuan's era. The Xianyuan sword answered. Forget it, these are not important. Perhaps there are experts who have mastered Tsongjia language in the future. Guhan waved his hand and asked the Xianyuan sword, Xianyuan, what is written on the cover? You may not believe it. The Xianyuan sword's expression turned serious. This is a game guide. What did you say? Guhan's expression changed instantly. He didn't expect the Xianyuan sword to give him such an answer. I told you, you may not believe it, but the cover is actually written with the word Sword Maiden online game guide. When the Xianyuan sword said this, everyone, including Guhan, felt like vomiting blood. What kind of joke was this? A secret room hidden in such a secret place that required the use of the precious and powerful Yin-Yang lock, and even Kanzu couldn't open it back then. Hid a game guide for Sword Maiden online. This feeling was as if you had gone through untold hardships, spent decades, opened more than a dozen 1,000-year-old tombs, and experienced dozens of life and death situations before you finally found the treasure. And the treasure turned out to be a CD of Pleasant Goat and Big Big Wolf. It was as ridiculous as that. I'm not lying to you. This is the truth. That's what was written on the cover, although I don't want to believe it either. The Xianyuan sword said with a bitter smile. That's not right. At least when the Tai Chi Yin-Yang sword was hidden in the Guanghui amusement park, the Yin-Yang lock couldn't have been opened, and no one could have lived in there. In other words, the birth of this booklet is definitely earlier than the birth of Sword Maiden online. Liu Yin Ling analyzed. Unless someone traveled back in time and wrote this guide thousands of years ago. You mean? Gohan instinctively thought of a name. It was his daughter, Gu Xuanwu, who had traveled back in time. However, Gohan quickly ruled out this possibility. Not to mention the fact that Gu Xuanwu couldn't possibly know Sangjiawen, the most important thing was that Gu Xuanwu had traveled back in time to Kenzu's era. Since Kenzu couldn't open this place, Gu Xuanwu shouldn't have the ability to do so either. For a moment, the entire space fell into silence. Everyone was thinking about the origins of this booklet named Strategy Guide, and what kind of huge secret was hidden in it. Why are you two wasting time here? If you want to know what's written in this book, just open it and you'll know. Etian couldn't stand the atmosphere anymore. She rolled her eyes at Gohan and the Xianyuan sword, and stretched her arm forward, preparing to open the booklet. No! Gohan quickly reached out and blocked Etian's hand before she could touch the booklet. What are you doing? I can't even touch it? The Etian sword said unhappily. Of course not. Gohan knocked Etian's head and said unhappily, no matter what, this booklet is at least a few thousand years old. It looks fine, but if you touch it lightly, it will turn into dust in an instant. Please don't read a single word. That's right, Gohan is right. We definitely can't touch this book now. Otherwise, we'll be in big trouble. Liuyan Ling agreed. According to what you said, we can't even touch this book. If we touch it, it will turn into dust. Then, we won't be able to open this book for the rest of our lives. Etian's words weren't wrong. How to open this book without damaging it was indeed a very tricky problem. Even with Gohan's intelligence, it was difficult to think of an appropriate way to deal with this. After all, protecting ancient books was an extremely specialized skill. Gohan wasn't omniscient and omnipotent. It was impossible for him to know how to deal with this somewhat fragile ancient book. What? Even our great wise and capable person, our Emperor of the Sea, can't think of an appropriate way? Liuyan Ling said mockingly when she saw that everyone was at a loss. Seeing Liuyan Ling's expression, Gohan's heart skipped a beat, and a smile appeared on his face. Ling, do you already know how to deal with this problem? I knew it. I can't hide anything from you. Liuyan Ling smiled bitterly, and a ray of light rose from the scabbard on her body. In the end, it turned into a fat, boorish woman dressed in animal skin. If it weren't for the two huge lumps of fat on her chest, she definitely wouldn't look like a woman. Soaring Sword Lady. Seeing this barbarian-like sword lady suddenly appear, Gohan's heart skipped a beat, and he called out the sword lady's name. Soaring Sword, Immortal Tier Sword Lady, reputed to be the ugliest sword lady among all Immortal Tier sword ladies. Gohan had seen Soaring Sword's profile photo before, so he recognized her at a glance. However, compared to the photo, the Soaring Sword Lady in real life seemed to be even uglier. Clearly, this Soaring Sword was Liuyan Ling's Immortal Tier Sword Lady. Her progress was slightly faster than Gohan's, and she had actually become an Immortal Tier Sword Lady already. Yo! Isn't this Zhuanshu's little toy? TSK, I didn't think you'd become a sword lady too. This Soaring Sword seemed to be an old acquaintance of the Xianyuan sword. As soon as she appeared, the Xianyuan sword cried out excitedly. It was a pity that this sword lady, Soaring Sword, was fat and ugly, but she just had to meet her nemesis, the Xianyuan sword. When she heard the Xianyuan sword's voice, she was so frightened that the fat on her body turned into layers of waves, and she instinctively retreated behind her sword wielder. If you dare to move, I'll invite you to take a walk in the lightning pool again. As soon as the Xianyuan sword finished speaking, Soaring Sword was so frightened that she did not dare to move. All she could do was smile at the Xianyuan sword and say, "Ancestor, what are you doing here? This is great. I haven't seen you in thousands of years, I've missed you so much." "Forget it, I'm afraid you'd only be happy if you could snap me in two." The Xianyuan sword snorted. The unlucky soaring sword could only smile apologetically. Gu, you better control your sword, lady. How can you humiliate my partner like this? Do you still want to read the contents of this book? As her master, Liuyan Ling was extremely displeased when she saw the soaring sword lady's fearful expression. She could not reprimand the Xianyuan sword, so she could only find trouble with its master, Gohan. Xianyuan, please control yourself, Gohan said helplessly. All right. The Xianyuan sword obediently returned to Gohan's side. Gohan heaved a sigh of relief, then said to the soaring sword lady, Lady, please use the soaring body fixing technique. This guy. He even knows my sword lady's abilities. When she heard Gohan's words, Liuyan Ling grumbled to herself. Gohan clearly heard Liuyan Ling's grumbling and took the initiative to explain. The soaring sword lady has fought dozens of battles for the human race. All the information is recorded in great detail. Anyone who studies even a little bit seriously will know that I'm not the only one with the soaring sword lady's abilities. Alright, let's not waste any more time. Soaring sword lady will do as this man says. Please use the soaring body fixing technique and fix the state of this book. Liuyan Ling said to her sword lady. Yes. Soaring sky sword nodded his head. The fat on his body rippled, and the small booklet that was placed on the table flew up into the air. His entire body radiated a faint golden light. Look, you only have 1 minute, Liuyan Ling immediately said to Gohan. Gohan did not waste any time. He grabbed the hovering book and placed it in front of the Xianyuan sword, then started flipping through it. Chapter 1266. The Soaring Sky Immobilizing Technique was an advanced skill of the Soaring Sky Sword. After the skill was used, the target would instantly fly into the air and enter a frozen state in the air. Under the frozen state, the target would not be able to move. However, they would also not be able to receive any damage and would remain in their most stable state. This was a relatively powerful control skill. It could temporarily seal a powerful opponent for over 10 seconds. After those 10 seconds, the entire situation of the battle could change drastically. As the target of the skill was not a living opponent, but a dead object, the Soaring Sky Sword skill could display its strongest effect. A frozen state that lasted for 1 minute. This was a skill that could be used in battle. However, Gohan and Liuyan Ling had used this skill on an item. The booklet that could be eroded at any moment was maintained in its most stable state for 1 minute, allowing Gohan to read it. Unfortunately, 1 minute was too short. After the time was up, the booklet that had lost its immobilizing effect instantly turned into ashes. Unless time could be reversed, it would be impossible to retrieve it. How is it? What is written in this booklet? After the booklet disappeared, Gohan immediately asked impatiently. This is the strategy for an Emperor Sword level quest called Exterminate the Celestial Court. As soon as Xianyuan Sword finished speaking, Gohan instantly recalled the quest that he had thrown to the back of his mind. It was 3 years ago. In the game, the fledgling Gohan had helped the now Qin Shi Huang, the sect leader of the Yaoguang Sword sect, who was then called Yaoguang, to conquer the first instance dungeon, King Arthur's Betrayal. It had to be admitted that this instance dungeon had changed Gohan's life. Not only did it allow Gohan to encounter King Arthur Artoria, whom he still yearned for to this very day, he also obtained the Sword of Heavenly Reliance and the Juzi Sword, the 2 tokens of the Sword Mistress. There were also many other minor changes. Bluntly put, without the King Arthur's Betrayal instance dungeon, Gohan would not have been able to reach his current level of strength. However, in the past 3 years, Gohan had gradually forgotten about the benefits he had obtained from the King Arthur's Betrayal instance dungeon. At the same time, it was also an unfinished quest, wiping out the Heavenly Court. This was a very normal thing. After all, a game was just a game. Although the sword essence in the game could be transformed into the real sword essence in Gohan's body, all of this was meaningless to Guhan. As long as Guhan found a U-class Yuan Ko and killed him, he would be able to obtain hundreds of thousands of quarks of sword essences. There was no need for him to obtain sword essences in the game anymore. Therefore, Guhan had gradually forgotten about the Sword Maiden Online. In fact, Guhan did not even plan to log into the game anymore. After all, reality was the real future. He still had many things to do in reality, so there was no need for him to waste time in the game. However, Guhan had never expected to find a guide for the Wiping Out the Heavenly Court quest in the Four Seas Spring. It was as if it was reminding Guhan that he had to complete the entire Emperor's Sword level quest. What else is written? Tell me everything you see. The uneasiness in Guhan's heart gradually increased, and he ordered the Xian Yuan sword with a stern and fearful expression. The entire book is indeed the guide for the entire quest. First, the prerequisites for accepting the quest. The Xian Yuan sword seemed to have seen the seriousness of the matter from Guhan's expression. Without any delay, it began to memorize the words it had just read from the book. Meanwhile, Guhan immediately took out a laptop from his dimensional pocket. As the Xian Yuan sword dictated, Guhan typed furiously on the laptop. The entire recording process took about 20 minutes. Guhan had also recorded tens of thousands of words before he was able to memorize the entire contents of the book. Is that all? Are there any mistakes? After completing the recording, Guhan asked the Xian Yuan sword with a serious expression. There are no mistakes in general, but there are some details. After all, it was recorded in the Xiangjia language, and the Xiangjia language only has a total of 1,400 words. In modern times, there are already more than 9,000 words. With fewer words, it is inevitable that the meaning of the language is difficult to express clearly. Therefore, in some places, I used my own imagination to fill in the gaps. Imagination is always subjective, so mistakes are inevitable. It was rare for the Xian Yuan sword to say something so serious and logical. I understand. Guhan nodded. Looking at the words he had recorded in front of him, his expression became even more serious. This was because at the end of the passage there was clearly such a sentence. There is never a real boundary between illusion and reality. In the illusion, one can obtain the real thing, and the real thing can also change the illusion. The defeat of the illusion is also the defeat of reality. We are bound together for good or bad. Since there is gain from the illusion, it will also be returned to the illusion. When the illusion and reality overlap, reality and illusion will merge, and the result is the same. This passage looked very mysterious. Ordinary people would have a headache at a glance, and they would have no idea what this sentence was talking about. However, Guhan saw the secret hidden in this passage. This passage went around in circles, and it sounded very complicated, but in fact, the meaning was very simple. This passage said, illusion and reality appear to be two different worlds, but the two worlds affect each other, and there is no real boundary. The defeat in the illusion is the defeat in reality. At the moment the illusion and reality overlap, the result of the illusion will also appear in reality. The illusion mentioned in this sentence was obviously referring to the game, Sword Maiden Online. In this way, Guhan realized that he was simply narrating his own story. The so-called illusion and reality affect each other, and there was no real boundary, and they were bound together for good or bad. Wasn't this saying that Guhan could obtain the sword essence in reality from the game? This was proof that the illusion could affect reality, and at the same time, it also meant that they were bound together for good or bad. However, since there was bound together for good or bad, there was bound to be bound together for bad. Since the illusion could bring benefits to Guhan, it was obvious that it could also bring bad things to Guhan. The moment the illusion and reality merged was the moment that the bad things would fall on Guhan's head. But what does this bad thing refer to? Guhan looked at this passage and fell into deep thought, but for a while, Gohan could not figure out the true meaning behind it. Seems like I have to go into the game, Gohan said to himself, then put the laptop back into the dimensional pocket. How is it? Do you understand the meaning of this book? Seeing that Gohan had started to pack his things, Liu Ling immediately asked Gohan curiously with a hint of worry. I've figured out most of it, but there's still a small part that I haven't figured out. But it doesn't matter, when I return to the base city and enter the game again, I should be able to figure out the final thing, Gohan said with a bitter smile. Good luck. Liu Ling patted Gohan's arm, causing Gohan to smile awkwardly. After that, Gohan and Liu Ling carefully searched the small room again. Gohan even used his sword aura to explore the walls to see if there was a secret room behind the wall. Unfortunately, the wall was the most realistic wall, and there was not even a single bubble. After searching for tens of minutes, they could not find anything useful in the entire room. Left with no choice, Gohan and Liu Ling could only go back the way they came. When they exited the door, the Tai Chi fish was still spinning. Is there any record in Kenzu's notes on how to close this door? Gohan asked as he looked at the spinning Tai Chi fish. The Tai Chi yin-yang sword was still stuck in the door. If he did not find a way to stop the Tai Chi fish from spinning, he would not be able to retrieve the Tai Chi yin-yang sword. Although the Tai Chi yin-yang sword could no longer become Gohan's sword maidens, they were still extremely rare spiritual sword maidens, and could be ranked among the top 10 spiritual sword maidens. Gohan would not be able to forgive himself for leaving such an important sword maiden here. No. Liu Ling spread out her hands and said, Our ancestors' notes only wrote the method to open the door, but never the method to close it. Even if you ask me, I don't know how to do it. It looks like we won't be able to stop for a while. After estimating the speed at which the Tai Chi fish was spinning, Gohan came to a conclusion that was not very optimistic. Then I'll force you to stop. Gohan snorted coldly, and the immortal slaying sword maiden instantly transformed into a ray of light and flew into Gohan's hands. Gohan leaped into the air and pierced the center of the Tai Chi fish with his sword. Primal Chaos Sky Opening. Without hesitation, Gohan used one of the Primal Chaos swordplay moves, wanting to use his own strength to stop the Tai Chi fish. Gohan's idea was not wrong. Primal Chaos Sky Opening was the move in the Primal Chaos swordplay that was best at breaking. The so-called Sky Opening meant to break. As long as Gohan was strong enough, anything in the world could be broken by this move. Now that Gohan had the sword essence of an immortal sword-tier sword wielder, if he used this move with all his strength, the attack power would not be weaker than that of a top immortal sword-tier sword wielder. Therefore, Gohan was somewhat confident that he could stop the Tai Chi fish with one strike. But the result was a vicious slap to Gohan's face. Not only did Gohan's strike not stop the Tai Chi fish, but he was also pushed away by the force of the Tai Chi fish, and the Tai Chi fish itself began to spin even faster. Gohan, are you okay? Liu Ling ran over worriedly and looked at Gohan. I'm fine, it's just some flesh pain, Gohan replied to Liu Ling, but all his eyes were focused on the rapidly spinning Tai Chi fish. In the end, he seemed to be completely obsessed. No matter how Liu Ling shook and shouted, Gohan did not move at all. Gohan, don't scare me. Liu Ling saw that Gohan still did not move, and thought that Gohan had been possessed. She said this nervously, but Gohan still did not respond. After an unknown amount of time, Gohan just kept watching the spinning Tai Chi fish. Liu Ling's heart was in turmoil, and even her mind was a little dazed. Vaguely, Gohan's soft voice could be heard. I was wrong. It's not like that. So that's how it is. I shouldn't have used the Chaos Sword style. What did you say? What did you say was wrong? Liu Ling immediately woke up from her daze. She was ready to ask Gohan for an explanation, but Gohan disappeared from his original position in an instant. When Liu Ling's eyes searched for Gohan again, he had already appeared in front of the rapidly spinning Tai Chi fish. and this time Gohan was not only holding the immortal slaying sword in his hand. In Gohan's right hand, the celestial extinguishing sword had also appeared. Break for me. Gohan's two swords struck at the same time, one on the left and one on the right side of the rapidly spinning Tai Chi fish. His whole body actually spun along with the Tai Chi fish. At the same time, the Tai Chi fish emitted two different sword chis. This is yin-yang sword technique. Liuyan Ling's pupils shrank instantly, as if she had seen something extremely terrifying and unexpected. Ah, I understand now. So that's how it is. Gohan suddenly let out a long roar. Then, he leaped out and stood next to Liuyan Ling again. He looked refreshed and his eyes were bright, as if he had experienced an important baptism. Then, something even more shocking happened. The originally rapidly spinning Tai Chi fish suddenly changed shape. From a perfect circle, it gradually shrank inwards and finally evolved into the shape of a sword. With a flash of light, the Tai Chi fish disappeared. In its place was an extremely ordinary-looking long sword, quietly floating where the Tai Chi fish had been. Sister Celestial Extinguishing Sword. The immortal slaying sword and the celestial extinguishing sword in Gohan's hands turned into sword ladies at the same time. They jumped out and surrounded the sword that was floating in the air. Their faces were filled with excitement, as if they had seen their family. Could this sword be your sister, the celestial extinguishing sword of the four immortal swords? Gohan asked in surprise. Yes, that's right. This is our sister who has been missing for thousands of years, the celestial extinguishing sword. I never thought that she would actually be here. She actually turned into a taiji fish. Zhu Xian's face was indeed filled with an expression of extreme disbelief. She could not understand how a Tai Chi fish could become her sister Zhu Xian. No, that Tai Chi fish is not the immortal slaughtering sword. At most, it can only be regarded as a primer, Gohan said with an expression as if he had already seen through everything. I'm afraid that the Tai Chi yin-yang twin swords are your sister's true form. For some reason, the immortal slayer sword was divided into a pair of Tai Chi yin-yang twin sword. In the end, with the help of the Tai Chi fish, they merged back into one and restored her true form. The celestial extinguishing sword and the celestial execution sword looked at each other and exchanged a complicated expression. Then, they nodded at the same time and said, "That's right, that should be the truth. That person does have the ability to split my sister into two." Who is that person you're talking about? Is it that person whose name cannot be mentioned? Gohan asked Zhuexian and Zhu Xian. No, not that person. Celestial Extinguishing Sword and Celestial Exterminating Sword shook their heads at the same time. Then who is it? Gohan asked curiously. What's your name? The Celestial Extinguishing Sword blinked and suddenly asked Gohan. My name is Gohan. Gohan said helplessly. No, I'm referring to your title. What's your current name, Sword Spirit? Hongjun Sword Spirit. Gohan paused. Could it be that the existence that split the immortal Slayer sword into Tai Chi yin-yang sword was that person called Hongjun? You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.